Mr. Anderson, how have you and the family been?
Excellent. Yeah, we're all settled. Yeah, we moved out 6 months ago, so we're all settled down now in a new place. So the kids left home, so we sold up and downsized, so they can't come back home now, can
A bit of freedom now, mate.
they? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Right. So just before we rip into your rugby story, Paul, where was home for you as a kid, mate, and who lived at home with you?
I'm a Castle lad. I'm a Castle
Yeah.
born and bred Castlefordian. Always had a dream of playing for Cass. Never happened. But yeah, brought up in all my life in Castleford up to really getting married and leaving. So that was it. We brought up in half acres in Castleford, and yeah.
Was it a nice environment to be a part of, mate, in and out of school?
Well, school was an afterthought. It was just always. I left school with nothing, no education, no qualifications or anything. It was just all rugby. I left school and went straight to on a YTS scheme, and then I think it was 25. Was it 25 or £28.50 a week, or what it used to be? Worked in a bonded warehouse, and I was just sat waiting for the dream of the rugby to come along. So yeah, it was just schooling and in and out of there and things like that. It was probably wasn't the best at school. Let's say probably had more fun at school when you used to play your community game for Lot Lane or Red Hill when I was a kid. When you turn up on a Monday morning with a black eye and everyone wants to know where you got it from.
You want to see the state of the other one?
That was the best bit about school. Getting a bit of sympathy for that.
So how was you introduced to rugby, Paul, and where was it?
Well, I think it always run in the family. My uncle, Fred Ward, he played for multiple clubs around West Yorkshire and whatever. He was player coach and captain of Hunslet in the '65 Wembley final. That team had likes of Dennis Hartley and people like that in it. It was a pretty decent team. I think they lost to Wigan in the final. So yeah, it was always in there, and basically it was always a destiny really in Castleford. What you had to do is if you was a big lad, which I'm not going to hide away from the fact I'm still a big human being, there was only one way that I was going, and got introduced to it by one of my mates' dads. I can't remember if he was coaching it or not, but yeah, just went and played a couple of games for Red Hill in Castleford at the time, and then it went from
there. Mate, and was the contact something that you enjoyed straight away, Paul?
Probably not. I don't know. It's a long time ago now. You're asking me out here, but it's well over 40 years ago. So it was. I think it as a big lad, but it was just easy at times. That was the thing. I remember when I first started. Then my mum and dad split when I was pretty young, and my mum was manageress of Victoria Wines in Castleford on Beacon Road, and just round the corner was Half Acres Trinity, which they ran teams from like under eights all the way through to 13s and 14s. I think it was. Might even be 15s. I'm not so sure. So it was just used to go there and play on a weekend. I remember we used to have a move called Elvis. One of my best mates now still talk to him and whatever. Now he was a really good player as a kid, and he'll remember we used to have a play called Elvis where one went one way across the road, one went there, and the big fella came down the middle and scored tries in under nines or something like that. That was probably one of the memories. We used to call it playing on the postage stamp as well, so that was the perfect move for me.
No, well, and that's what the game's about, them memories, Paul. And it obviously you've kicked on and it got real serious for you. But as a kid, mate, when you're playing for the fun and the love, that's where probably all your natural stuff comes from, then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the key. We weren't, and that's a lot of things at the moment. Is like a lot of philosophers that we're doing in my current role and whatever. We weren't overcoached. We had parents who were coaches, and they just did it for the love of it, with like to do with the game, and they just tried to help you, but then just let you get on with it because we weren't getting the rainbow shirts running on the field as what you see now when there's a stoppage in play.
Oh, mate, no. So the game's changed a lot, hasn't it? Which we'll touch on later. But when did rugby show its face early to you, or was that as you got a bit older?
I can remember, and I talk about this a little bit now when I'm talking to young players about sacrifices sometimes. And I can remember one of your questions was talking about what was it? Yeah, I forgot. Oh, when I was at Warrington and things like that. But yeah, one of the things was that I remember getting picked for like a Yorkshire team at like under 15s or under 16s, and the game was at Doncaster. I can remember having to, I think we played Humberside at the time, and Steve McNamara was actually in that team. So me and Steve played against each other a fair bit. And it's like the sacrifices now. If you look at young players, if they're not dropped off, picked up, had their ass wiped, and have the teas ready for them when they get walking the team, they're not going. I can remember back then, is I had no other choice. We used to call to walk up the road and get on the South Yorkshire bus that took me to Doncaster. I think the game's kicked off about 3 o'clock, and I'm there at 11 o'clock because I didn't want to be late. And it's just that sacrifice of doing that and having to do it to come back again all on your own. I'm not sure many kids would do that now, just purely because of the society and where we're bringing them up. So that was my
totally
first.
agree. I don't think you get a team, would you?
No, and I can remember talking to a lad. I'm not going to give him up, but yeah, we did a review of a kid at Warrington, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I'm not going to say his name, but yeah, his dad used to bring him training. And sometimes you'd walk past the car park and you see his old man in the car fast asleep, or you'd see him in there eating his tea. But the kid at the time, he's learned from this, to be fair to him, was he's basically taking the piss in training. He was coming in half-assed and all that type of stuff, and minimal effort, and got minimal out of it. And when it came to his review at the end of the year and things like that, I said to him, I says, I'm not going to talk to you, I'm going to talk to your dad. And asked him what time he got up for work. He got up at 6. What time do you finish? He said, well, it all depends on what time you have with me training. If we train at 3, 4 o'clock, he finishes work accordingly to be able to bring him. I says, and there's times I've seen you asleep in the car, I've seen you eating your tea and all that. I went, yeah, well, I have to do it, don't I? And I just said to the kid, I said, I think you're taking the piss out of your dad because he's the only one that's working hard. You're not. You've got the opportunity. His time's been and gone. He's working all the hours with friends and you're taking the piss out. I said, mate, come on, give your head a wobble. Let's have a look at this. It was just, I think they're not all like that, but that was just one example of that, where I don't think people would do that type of thing anymore.
No. And you know what, mate? Why shouldn't you hold them accountable at that level when a parent or a carer or guardian's doing that?
Yeah. And that's the thing I think it's a bit of a wake-up call for his dad as well, because his dad just realised, yeah, to be fair, you're right. You're taking the piss out of me, yeah? I'm the only one that's working hard, and you've got all the opportunities. Sitting there, get whatever money you've got, go get a bus pass and find your way to training. Don't just rely on us.
Right, that mate, and that sets the culture then, doesn't it? Like if he can't put up with that from you at that age, a video recession when he's trying to get in a team might wake him up, and then it's too far gone, then, isn't it?
It almost creates a sense of entitlement, doesn't it? Where it's and my kids do it now. I can tell you about my lad when he was on the way to taking him to college one day, and basically laughed at somebody who was running. I said, well, at least I'm trying. Not right. Not you sat there, so turned on and made him go on the bike from them. So it's like now he's like, I know I'm a big human being, but if I see somebody who's running on the side of the road and they're touring and they're struggling and all that type of stuff, at least they're making an effort. They're not just sitting here with that sense of entitlement that, yeah, somebody will sort me out. I'm having a go, I'm going to sort myself out.
Yeah. So, was there any town team, mate, or did you not get picked for that sort of thing? Was that about?
No, what I can remember is this as you get a little bit older. In Castleford at the time, we I played it on Halifax Trinity up until about, I think it was about under 15s. So it used to be under 15s, under 17s, under 19s. It used to be the odd years that we used to play. You got to 15s, and because basically didn't have a team after that. So there was a genuine junior rugby club. They'd run from under 8s all the way through to that. So they'd run, or 9s, 11s, 13s, etc. So you had to go then. I'd make a decision to either go to Lock Lane or Red Hill. But at that point, I remember it's a little bit like now. I might be wrong on this, but yeah, my thoughts were that I went to Red Hill at Lock Lane at under 15s. and then you went to Red Hill at under-17s, and then you went back to Oak Lane at under-19s because there weren't enough to keep the two teams going. And it was the same coaches. We just went from one club to the other. It was crazy. You'd play like 1 year for Red Hill, then the next year for Oak Lane. But at the time, the coaches were John Hay, who was Andy Hay's dad. So there was Andy's brother, who was the same age as me, David, I think it was. And the other coach was Dennis Hartley. And Dennis Hartley I think he had a bit of an affinity for me because he played with my Uncle Fred in that 65 final for Hunslet before he went to Castleford. So that was that. But in regards to your town teams, the reason I'm saying that is that when it got to under-19s, we used to have, they used to call it a DDA, which was like a district development league. So you play on a Wednesday, and you still train as your club. There'd be very, very few people that come from outside of Castleford. There'd be one or two, but you'd play against Featherstone, you'd play Wigan, you'd play Oldham, you'd play all these different teams. I think you played about 8 games a year on a Wednesday night. It's probably like what scholarship is now, but not to the effect of the training that they're doing, whatever you played in Castleford colours, you trained at Wheldon Lane. So it was just that little bit extra, and that was probably the first part of like a town team that I had. That was at under-19s. So.
Right.
Remember, because
So
if you got man at match, you got man at match, you got a tie. Imagine what you do with a tie now. Yeah. I got 6 ties 1 year out of the 8 games, so I was lucky.
You're running out of places to wear them.
I'm running out of necks. Yeah.
So at that age, though, mate, you could have, like, for viewers and listeners, mate, you could have been playing in the A League, couldn't you?
Well, I did. So it was what happened then is because we're a late maturation or a late specialisation sport, and a lot of this theory comes from me and from my own experiences as well, which I'm not saying is right, but my theories are my theories. But coming out of that district league, Dennis Hartley basically was pushing Castleford to sign me, and that was always my dream as a kid to play for Cast. So Darrell van der Velde was the coach at the time, and the year after that, then I was probably 18, 19, and I did have a couple of like reserve grade games of the old Alliance and what have you. So probably an 18-year-old playing that under-19s, done well in that, got noticed a little bit, and then I remember playing one Alliance game. My first game was at Dewsbury against Dewsbury. I was playing with Keith England, Martin Kettridge, and all these blokes who I'd watched as a kid. They're not that much older than me, to be fair, but I was watching them as a kid, and it was pretty surreal, to be fair.
I say, yeah. What's it like then when that jersey's hung up and you know it's yours, mate? Because again, for viewers and listeners that might not know, they'd be coming back from injury, wouldn't they? Coming back from band, might be a little bit out of form or whatever. The A League was really competitive, Paul, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was crazy. When I played probably more Alliance than when I actually went to Leeds because what happened there is with the Castleford thing, with the jersey and whatever, that's all I'd ever wanted. I wore the shirt playing in that district league on a Wednesday night, or that district DDA, I can't remember. Somebody told me, I once did a thing at the House of Commons and somebody told me what it was, and I've forgotten again if I'm being honest. But yeah.
It's a pathway team, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I say, like an old scholarship. You only played 8 games a year, but it was different. But when I was at Castleford, I was playing reserve grade, and I got invited to do a little bit of pre-season the year after. So I must have been 18, 19 at that time, and Darrell van der Velde was the coach. So I'd have been 18, 19, still living at home, and it was tough. Never trained before, never trained properly, and going in straight into a Super League or a First Division pre-season with Darrell van der Velde, who was probably ahead of his time at that point with the physical nature of the game and their strength and conditioning and things like that. Oh, I struggled. I struggled royally. And I think after about 2 weeks, I woke up one morning. Can you remember when the postman used to come first thing on the morning?
Yeah.
He'd come downstairs and there was a letter on the thing where I'd got a letter. And I wish I'd have saved it, to be fair. And Darrell van der Velde had sent me a letter. Instead of sitting me down and talking to me, he sent me a letter. Bless him, I know he's passed now. Darrell has died, unfortunately. The letter essentially basically told me, in his opinion, don't bother coming training again because, in his opinion, I wouldn't make it as a professional rugby player, and we don't want to keep wasting each other's time. So I was like, thinking that morning I'm getting up for training, and the next thing you know, the world's been ripped apart from you because the only club that you want to play for, doesn't want you anymore. So I do think as well on that one that Dennis had a bit of a fallout with the club at that time because I know he was pushing for them to sign me, but it never happened.
Strange thing, especially when you're from there, Paul, and that's your ultimate ambition. That's a real kick in the nuts, isn't it? When
Yeah, I was talking to Stuart Bors. We had the academy origin game at Castleford last weekend. Not last weekend, the weekend before. And we was just talking about the stadium and things like that and the plans that they've got down there. And I'm saying, well, I can remember playing down here as a kid in like local Castle District Cup finals and playing in that district league and all that type of stuff. I can remember then going down to watch games and climbing over the wall when they used to be the wall at the back of the Princess Street stand with the glass in the top with them. They just get the nearly dry cement and stick the bottles of milk bottles in the back of it. So you throw your coat over it and jump over it. So we was having a laugh because a couple of years ago it fell down, didn't it? It blew down in the wind, and he was blaming me jumping over it.
what's the serves them right for that matter, doesn't it?
Yeah, I disturbed the foundations, let's say.
So how does a young Paul take that, mate? And where do you go from that letter? And did you keep hold of that letter as a driver?
I wished I think I kept it mentally. I kept it mentally because it almost came full circle once because in 2018 we took a England Knights tour to Papua New Guinea, and me and Dave Rotherham, who's the chief on-field officer of the NFL and who employed me at the time, and he was team manager for the Knights, we did a recce, believe it or not, to Papua New Guinea on because everybody had scared us to death about the environment and the country and things like that. So we went out and did a recce. And part of the recce was we took in a PNG Hunters game. So we sat in a box, and lo and behold, the next bloke who comes and sits next to me is Darryl van der Velde. And we're talking, and after 10, 15 minutes, I just said to him, I said, mate, I'm going to have to say something and get it off my chest. I says, were you taking the piss out of me by doing that? And he couldn't even remember doing it. So it meant nothing to him, but it meant everything to everybody else. And it makes you think about that. Makes you think as a coach and as an administrator, let's say, that anything you say can mean the world to somebody. You got to be very, very careful what you say. And I get it wrong more than anybody, but I can see where he's coming from now, being on the other side of the fence. But obviously, times change, and you do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, mate. And then, so like you said, you moved to Leeds. How does that come about? And because that's a derby as well, isn't it? That can't have been easy for you necessarily.
Yeah. Well, it was a strange one, to be fair, because I was playing for Loch Lane at the time. Like I said, the season used to change. I can't remember which one was. Well, 1 year you played for Loch Lane, 1 year you played for Red Hill. And I was playing on the sandy desert, and I was playing a game which was Loch Lane's old field, and not far from where they are now. But I can remember there was one time when Kath Everington spoke to my dad about coming down to, well, that's what my dad told me. Kath Everington had approached us, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, let's have a think about it. But then my dad rang me once and said, I've had a call off a bloke from scout from Leeds. Must have been back when you just had the house phones.
Yeah.
He had the call from a bloke called Bernard Schumann at Leeds, asking if we want to go through and have a look and have a talk to him. So we went through and had a talk to him, and it didn't really materialise to anything. I just got invited to like a skills day, like a trial type day it was, and it just went from there. To be fair, I went on that. Then got asked if I wanted to play some reserve grade older Lions type games, and played a couple of. I was there, must have been there, 3 or 4 months before playing reserve grade or a Lions game, sorry, and before I actually got offered a contract. Because I can remember, I tell you exactly what I got. So my first contract was £2,000 a year when I signed, and it was like you only got paid twice a year, so you got £1,000 at one point, then 6 months later you got another £1,000, and it was you got used to get like your winning pay and all that type of stuff in Alliance. Because if you won it, there were no notes in the package because you used to get the brown little envelope with the money in it. And if you lost, you'd get something like 30. There was like change in it, so you get like £32 or something like that for it because it'd be rattling. And it'd be
Yeah,
like, right,
bit more than the YTS, Paul, isn't it?
a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's a lot of
That's how.
money, that, joking aside, isn't it, mate? It's probably money, no offence, like a lot of people hadn't seen.
Yeah, well, the difference between winning and losing was still massive. I think it was 50 quid a win and 30,
Yeah.
32 or 25, 27 quid a loss. Something like that. I can't remember the numbers. But like it was, if you won, you got double your money.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And to be fair, at the time it was a really good group, and you got probably more winning than what you lost. I mean, you won more than what you lost, so it was always pretty good. And I can remember something as well. I think this is something as well that won't come back, but I think it's a good idea. They used to have something called sheet money. So you go at black football, so they train Tuesday, Thursdays, and whatever, yeah, so and play Sundays and maybe the odd Saturday morning. And if you played, Alliance used to always play on a Friday night. But then if you played well the week before, or if you played well on the Friday, you get asked to go into training Saturday, but then it meant you'd be on the sheet, so you get sheet money. What that meant basically was, look at it now, you'd be 18 or 19th man. It was very, very rare that anybody ever got called into play. But being part of that was what you do if there was two of you, you'd share the win money. So if you got onto that and the win money was say 200 quid, you'd get 100 quid a piece. So it's even better. So you might get 50 quid on the Friday and another 100 quid on the Sunday.
Oh, yeah, double it up. That's class, isn't
Yeah.
it? Do you think there should be a little bit jumping ahead, Paul? Do you think? And I don't, I'm not digging players out. It's an hard game, and it may you hit them levels. You know what it is. But do you think more contracts should be performance related?
I think that they should, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that the winning bonus side of it, I think is massively important. Just jumping forward a little bit, I can remember when we first went to Bradford, we used to get win money. And my first year at Bradford, we won the first 20 games straight. So you never actually touched your contract money because then you was all right. Your contracts weren't as high, but yet you was getting all this,
yeah,
whatever it was. I know exactly what I'm going to say, but we were getting at the time win money. So it was really good. I think it's an incentive based thing rather than just you get your flat salary and things like that. It's an
yeah,
hard one, especially in a salary cap sport, to judge that. There's probably ways around it, and some clubs may well do it. We had this
yeah,
conversation when I was at Huddersfield about doing it as well. You like appearance money or win money. I said I'd much sooner have win money than appearance money as a coach, because hopefully
yeah.
makes you a bit more hungry.
Right. No, I'd be shocked if clubs don't do it, mate. Especially in and around if you want to compete for playoff spots and stuff. Because obviously the champ do it, don't they? And things like that, mate. Because
Yeah,
it obviously lots of working and stuff.
I think it's another
So
thing for cash flow as well for clubs as well. They know exactly where
yeah,
they're at. That's the key.
that's a good point, mate. Maybe we fantasize the idea rather than it being logistically possible.
You can't believe a note front row has just talked about cash flow, can you?
No, that's it. Yeah. So what were you like in a new environment? So do you know, like you've initially gone to Leeds without a contract, Paul? Would you have been comfortable in that trial period?
I can't really remember. I think so. Yeah, I think it was. It was almost like living the dream, if I'm being honest, because I don't think until people actually have actually worked for, played for Leeds Rhinos, they don't, or Leeds Rugby as it was then, they don't realise how big a club that is. That is a giant of it. That's probably the biggest rugby league club we have in this country. It's absolutely humongous and growing. It's probably 10 times the animal it was when I was there. So you look at, even through the tough times, you see it now, we still see the crowds that they're averaging and all this type of stuff. It's a beast of a club. And it's like, I've gone from playing playing amateur rugby to being like semi-pro in one respect, playing reserve grade games with some people who played first grade, and it was like, well, I'm playing with and against first graders there. I'm probably thinking I'm not probably that far off, and it's the environment. I was lucky because there's a fair few cast lads in there as well. They'd brought a fair few in, and there was a really good group, to be fair.
No, because I used to watch the Witness A League, so they used to let you in at half time and stuff when I was a kid, mate. And like it weren't a standard to be sniffed at, was it? And
No,
you've jumped standards really quick there, haven't you? So how did you find the difference from amateur to A League and then A League to first team?
it was purely the speed of the game.
Yeah,
Speed of the game, it was ridiculous. back then there was only 15 players, so you played 80 minutes regardless. Even though you're saying I played 80 minutes, and you look at everybody just looks at what you did in the good times, if that makes sense. But yeah, all them early years of playing on a Friday night, playing at all these different venues, and playing in mud, sweat, tears, and all that type of stuff, and it gives you the grounding, I think, for moving forward. I think that's the key. You look now, and I'm part of this problem as well. Is you look at some of the stadiums that these players now playing in reserve grades. This is where the sport needs to be, 100% where it needs to be. And there'll be pros even older than me. I'll go, well, you don't even know you're born. Look, this is what the shit that we had to deal with, and it's. I've been very, very fortunate. So I think I was part of that first real era that, even though I did work when I was a kid, I only worked for a couple of years, and then ended up signing at Leeds very quickly. Ended up in and around that type of first team environment. Not on the same money, to be fair, but yeah, you were gaining winning pay every week, which made up for it.
Yeah, it's an exposure, and you're a step closer to achieving them ambitions, as well as it being a dream. I imagine you start ticking the boxes off for winning stuff and that, then, mate, and selections beyond Leeds and things like that.
Yeah, well, it was like I said, it was interesting because at the time it was like because Colin Maskill was there at the time at Leeds. He was a really, really good, solid player, and his in-laws knew my mum, so there was a bit of a connection there. So when I moved up to the first team type environment, he was there as well, which helped. And the first I couldn't drive, so he would pick me up. And when I could drive, then I'd car share type of stuff. So we'd have to sometimes pick Gary Schofield on the way in. So there's sometimes when you're actually pinching yourself, thinking, "It's Gary Schofield sat there," and it's like, I'm not going to go into the reasons why you had to pick him up, but yeah, it's you're having to do that and ferry him about and things like that, and you're like, wow, this is a bit surreal. This.
So again, I'm going to jump slightly ahead now. Did you ever understand that from young uns playing with you then? So did you know how to treat people because you'd been that young lad?
I think the thing for me is I always know what I was. I was a married man with 2 kids and miserable as all. That was me. I probably lightened up a little bit and tried to enjoy life a little bit more as I've got a bit older. But I think back then it was more, I would, my wife would be married 30 years next month and all that type of stuff. We've been together all that time, and it's like, I even say it now as when I left Warrington, Carl Fitzpatrick asked to talk to me, and he said, "Is it travel that gets you?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm a middle-aged man, that's a Yorkshireman that loves his own company and don't like other people. So sitting in the car for an hour a day don't really worry me." So I think from my point of view, I was pretty introvert, not an extrovert type of person, pretty introvert, and just did what I did. I'd have my occasional couple of nights out, but I wasn't ever a big type drinker, if you know what I mean.
Fair enough, mate. And then GB21s comes about. How did the selection work for that, mate? Do you remember much about that?
Just remember getting a phone. To be fair, I can't remember. I think I got a phone call. It might have come through the club. I'm not so sure. I think it might have come through the club. Maybe, like I said, maybe debut under David Wood, and Dougie Lawton came in the following year, and it was one for me where I'd been in around that first team environment with Wardy, and there was like Maskey, Gary Schofield, Roy Powell, people like that knocking about, John Bentley's, and it was. Then all of a sudden, it's like a fair few of them have gone, and Dougie comes in with his regime, and it was very, very different. And the GB thing, I can't remember whether that came through Dougie or what. I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah. And standard wise, mate, did that feel any different to first team rugby?
Well, I can't remember how many games I played first grade ball, and it can't have been many. I probably doubt whether it was in double figures at that point. I think what had happened is the GB thing was the 21s. I reckon they'd had a couple of injuries. Somebody had pulled out, so then I got the opportunity to play. So I don't think I got the call till late at the beginning. The first game I played for them, I think it was in Albi in France, and Gary Connolly played, and maybe a few others. I can remember Gary because we won the game. I remember the game. We won the game, and there was in the nightclub that we went to after. There was a raised dance floor, so it had a bit of a lip on it, and Gary did his ankle, chipped on the did his ankle. So you won't tell anybody that, will you?
No, man. No, well, so again, with you ticking these boxes, mate, and that, do you keep yourself grounded, Paul? Because you're coming across very that way and
I
modest
think
about
that's
what
just.
you've done and
I
that.
think that's down to your upbringing. I was
Yeah.
brought up by my mum. I can remember we used to get our change of wardrobe whenever the case catalogue come out, and you'd go, "Can we afford this and afford that?" And it, yeah, even though you get a bit of a taste for nice things as you get later in life and whatever, it was. Yeah, I don't think you had a choice. I was brought up on a council estate on half acres in Castleford. We used to live in a masonette. Whatever we got, I know my mum had to work for, and it's I just think that's your upbringing. That's your upbringing. I think that probably makes you.
No, I'd agree, mate. I'd definitely agree. So when the time at Leeds come to an end, mate, and you ended up at Halifax, was it amicable and why Halifax?
I reckon there's a fair few stories like the one I'll tell you now, but I can remember we was training and I was still on the same contract as this was all within 3 years. I signed a 3-year contract because you used to get a signing on fee as well. So I've come across to say now we're only getting £2,000 a year, but I got a signing on fee for. They used to call it relinquishing your amateur status. Now some players used to get tens of thousands. I got £6,000, like a check cash, and £2,000 a year plus ring pay. And at the time, even though I am playing first grade, I'm still on that contract. And it wasn't led by me, so we was at the old North Stand at Headingley. And Dougie Lawton used to have an office outside in a bit of a corridor. And as we were walking out one day, he just pulled me in and he said to me, he says, "You're off contract, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, if you say I am, yeah, I don't know." He says, "Right." He says, "How much do you want?" And I was like, "No idea. No idea." He went, "All right." He says, "Well, just come up with a number." And I just went, 10 grand. That was it, just put on the spot. I had no player managers or anything like that. He went, "Right, leave it with me." Anyway, later that night, I got home and the phone rang. Remember, like I said, the house phone rang. Stood in the hallway at home in the council thing, and the phone rang. And I can't remember where I answered it or my mum answered it or whatever, but it was Malcolm Reilly. Malcolm Reilly was the head coach at Halifax. And I think the connection came between Leeds and Halifax was because Gary Stevens was assistant at Leeds, and he'd gone to Halifax with Malcolm. And Malcolm basically said, "Hi Paul, it's Malcolm Reilly. Just to let you know, we've agreed a fee with Leeds, and you need to come through and agree and sign a contract." And that was me done at Leeds. That was it.
Quick.
He'd asked me. Obviously, he'd obviously got something in the pipeline. I dug it. Never even spoke to me. Never done anything, and it was like, all right, yeah, nice, lovely, thank you. I went to Halifax.
Would you have said no, Paul?
Probably
Could that
couldn't
have
have.
been done?
Do you know something? It never even crossed my mind of saying no. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but it was almost like if you reflect on it now, and I've not really done much on it, it was like, I probably think that, well, he's told me I'm not wanted, so I'm staying, I'm going. I never thought that way, but obviously reflecting now, that's probably what was in my subconscious, if that's the right thing to say.
Yeah.
But like I say, I
So
went
if
the
you're saying
following
all
day.
you hang around and you're not wanted and that, it's not a pleasant environment then, mate, is it?
Well, to be fair, then it's like Dougie at that time had brought Sean Wayne in. He brought Steve O'Neill. Was it Steve O'Neill or Mike O'Neill? He brought Mike O'Neill
Yeah.
in. He brought Mick Worrell in. He brought Steve Malloy in from Warrington. So it was like Ellery Hanley was there as well. That was unreal with Ellery. Ellery Hanley a couple of years ago did a shirt presentation for us for England Knights, and I was a quivering wreck, even though I played with him and against him. I was a quivering wreck, so I was just in awe of the fella.
It's nice that people like you still get like that though, mate. I find that like still quite endearing.
Yeah, well, he did a shirt presentation to him. He just had elbow surgery, and I was like, when I was talking to the players, I was sweating. I said to the players at the time, I said, you can tell I'd done a bit of Googling and got some information on Ellery to do. And I'm thinking, shouldn't have to do an introduction for Ellery here. But I know these are young players who probably don't know of him, but not what he's achieved. I'm reading it and I'm thinking, I played with this bloke. How good am I? But no, it was, yeah. I was actually, I actually said to him at the time, I was going to say then, is that my voice had a quiver in it because I was talking about him. And I said, you can tell I'm quite emotional about this because this is where I hold this fella. And it was like, he did talk to the players and put out the shirts and everything. But I remember one time with Ellery, he told me this when I was a kid. He says, he's been and asked Dougie, which kids do I need to work with? So I was like, he went in, you need to get him working hard. So obviously the big year, we just run through people and that was it. So I remember him telling me, he says, I'll see you at Leeds Beckett's University at 8 tomorrow. I was like, all right, yeah. He says, bring your boots and bring your trainers. And we were there and we'd be on the track doing 200, 300, 400s and stuff like that. But what he was doing is using us because he was injured at the time. He was using us kids to get fit and us training with him. It was like unreal. But he looked after you, he'd take you for lunch after and all that type of stuff. So it was like, it's quite surreal now when you think about it, the things that. And that was in a really part-time era as well. It went full-time. That wouldn't happen now because our performance staff and coaches will be telling him, no, you can't, you've done enough, that's it, you've done. But yeah, them sort of times were quite unreal.
Yeah. It's gone that way, mate. And like, if you hit certain markers, you're told to stop, aren't you? Like, even if you want to do extras and that, does that baffle you from the generation you've come from a little bit?
I think it's generational as well. I think it all depends. It's all down to knowing your players as well. It's all down to knowing what you've got there. If you've got a young player who you think needs more, then let him do more. Let him do it off his own back rather than forcing him. I found that when I finished playing is that I'd had 20 years nearly of people forcing training and extra training and conditioning and all that down your neck. And then as soon as you retire, you just go, are you training? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, times you learn to get going again as you get older. But yeah, it's just that if you get it forced on you, you're more likely to not want to do it.
And how was it at Halifax for you, mate? Was it the move you needed at the time? Did you play regularly and did it manage to hone your skill set?
Well, it's when I went, I thought Halifax paid £35,000 transfer fee for me. So it was like
It's a few quid, that, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Bradford paid a fee for me as well, believe it or not. But yeah, gone there and it was like I loved the club. I loved everything about it. Loved Malcolm. Malcolm certainly had a presence about him. He still has when you see him now. I used to see him in the gym in Castleford. I understand he's not so well at the moment, which is not nice. But you used to see him in the gym and he's still working his balls off. And I'm thinking, he's in his 70s and I'm sat here just toddling away on a bike. You need to work harder here, mate. And he still had the aura about him as well. And
yeah,
like the people I remember watching Malcolm when he come back from Australia, he played for Castleford with a white tube grip on his knee, and it was like just limping around the field. But yeah, still belting people. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the time at Halifax, I was there for just nearly 4 years, and I only played 20 odd games in that period. So I first went and played a couple of reserve grade games, made me earn my way to get into first grade. Played a couple of first grade games and then needed a shoulder reconstruction. So that put me out of action for a fair few months. That was at the time when we were just having our first lad, had Jack. When we was having that, about 94, 95. And then I was struck down with an illness. I had to have a stoma bag for 6 months. So I didn't play for 2 years. So it was just, so I had a mountain of operations and surgeries and all that type of stuff. And at the time, probably when the club needed you, it was I was out of action. I think they signed me to work with Carl Harrison and then ultimately be his replacement when he moved on or retired. I think that was the bigger picture plan, which never really materialised purely by nobody's fault, by injuries and all that other stuff.
More to life than rugby, Paul, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it was a tough time, but I think for me as well is we're now not really been mental monster, if that makes sense in regards to your mental strength. But yeah, it never really bothered me. I never lost sight of where I wanted to be. I always, even though I'm sitting there and I've got a stoma bag and I've got a colostomy and things like that, and I'm having to deal with all that. I never lost sight of where I wanted to be, which was still a rugby player. So we was not earning any money. We was because I weren't playing, I weren't getting paid. My wife was supporting us. We got married at that time when I had that one as well, so she was supporting us. So money weren't great, but yeah, it was a time. 24 games in 4 years, and then Steve Sims came in and replaced Malcolm Reilly, and he certainly wanted me to come to work with me, and that was the thing. Is towards the end, obviously he got the bullet, and he was the one, as I understand it, that there was a period I think where I heard rumours that Bradford were interested in me when Brian Smith was there, and that was just it's just player talk. There's no player managers or anything then. It was just player talk, and yeah, and I believe now, obviously Steve Sims at the time was adamant that I wasn't leaving, but then when he got the sack, everything started happening again. So yeah, interesting times.
Yeah. And also, mate, so like you're still a young man at this point, aren't you? And all that's happened. So I've just got a few things. So obviously you support UK Colostomy, don't you? And obviously that's where it's come from, hasn't it, mate? I weren't aware that that's a fair play for doing that. And just how do you cope with that, mate? I know you said like you're mentally strong, but like they're really key injuries, aren't they, to a rugby player?
Yeah, it was tough. It was anything that could be fixed just like that, if you know what I mean. And I think that I can remember I was going, must have been from Castleford, living in Castleford. The hospital I was going to was Methley Park, which was just near Rothwell, near Leeds, between Castleford and Leeds, and it's just down the road. And everything just seemed to be starting to just grind really slow, and all that. Nothing was really going anywhere. And there was a nurse who we still get Christmas cards off, believe it or not. At the time, she basically had a word with my wife, and it was either with my wife or me or whatever it is. She just turned around to me and says, "Look, get a second opinion." I think she'd seen enough of me as well, to be fair, to being in Methley Park
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time. And I was like, all right. Went back to the club, then basically got referred to a professor in Leeds. And he went, and I love it. And I think there's a part of my psyche come out in what he was about as well. It might have formed my psyche, I don't know, where he just went, right, so there's two ways we look at this. He says, continue as we are and we'll be here forever and a day, or we can have the stoma, we can have the surgery, and in 6 to 9 months, I would suggest that we may be on the way back to being full fitness. So right, yeah, when we in? So I was operated on within 2 days. It's
Also,
quite
no
fun.
messing about, mate. No.
It was quite fun. I had a machine with a button on, and apparently it was a morphine drip. You could press it every
Driver.
5 minutes. You could press it every 5 minutes. So I'm like this isn't it. But as soon as I take it off you, it's like you've had your stomach opened up and wrenching, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna. It was fun at the time while you were pumping it, but yeah, went full cold turkey for a couple of days.
Buddy, I'll bet you felt that, mate, didn't you? And do you know what, mate? That's a different pain to what you'll feel doing other things, isn't it? It's
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't really a pain. It was more of a an inconvenience and things like that. And it's like I'm weird. I've got some real weird things in my mind and things like that. And it's like having the stoma bag. The things I can remember about that, not about the pain, and not about the bags or anything like that. The things I know are now is that sweet corn, red kidney beans don't digest if you don't chew them. So it's like I think that's the weirdness of me, that knowing now that it's all these different things, and it was like well, because I didn't really understand it, I probably
yeah,
didn't want to understand it. That's the bits that are coming out that my remembering is like I can just remember sitting there and you're thinking, I'm sat there in the settee in the room and I'm having a shit, but nobody knows.
yeah,
And you're like, you
yeah.
start feeling it and touching it, and there's kidney beans or sweet corn in it, something like that. If you've had chili, then you've done all right. You get a bit of everything in, don't you?
At least you can have a shit and not have to move, mate. Can't you? Don't miss the telly.
Yeah, but it's hard as
But
well, isn't
joking
it?
aside, that it weren't common knowledge then, Paul, was it?
No,
So it's a lot to
I
get
don't
your head
think it.
around.
at that time as well, and I'm not saying I'm a somebody, but at that point I was definitely a nobody. And it was like I'm
Right.
a squad player. I've been a squad player at Leeds as a young kid, been released, pushed to Halifax, been a bit of a squad player at Halifax. At the time when I left, I'd got the squad number 10. Carl Harrison was number 8. But yeah, then Steve Sims got the bullet, and then obviously then I moved on. But it was, yeah, that period of time, it was definitely challenging. And I think it was like now, like I said, we're 30, I think it's next week or the week after. I'll have to find out, but we're 30 years married, and it's like, I think that was the making of us, if I'm being honest. And it's just solidified everything. We've been up and down and in like with other things in our lives and whatever since then, but I think because of the stuff we've been through when we were young, it hasn't really. It's been a challenge, but it hasn't really deterred us from being us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and that's amazing, mate, isn't it? Like, not many people find that, Paul, did he? Again, the game's been great for memories and friendships, mate. But when the game goes away, it'll still just be you two, won't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's us now.
Yeah.
We've got our little retirement home. We've got a nice little bungalow, and we're in a good spot. So it's yeah, we're just getting ready for that next part of life.
Boss, mate, class. So while we're on that type of thing, mate, I'm very sentimental. If I'd a bit the standards you guys had a bit, I'd be keeping little token gifts, gestures, jerseys. Is that something you've ever done, like programs and that, mate?
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
Before, like I said, we moved in August last year, and I used to have a box of programs. Uh, I haven't got it anymore. I gave them away. But there was pendants in there from like Alliance man at matches. Used to get a pendant at Leeds Rhinos, and they'd have like a thing up in the first team change room. So there'd be first team man at match, reserves man at match, and they'll have like a Man of Steel award or something like that for the hardest working player or something. And your pendant would go up on there, so they present it where you'd go put it up on there like a symbolic act, so that and your
Yeah.
name would be underneath it. But then at the end of that week, you come and took the pendant home, so you kept it. And I had a few of them in there. When we're going on there was a few things in there as well from like programs. Went on a Barla tour in 1991. I'd played first grade for Leeds and went on a Barla tour with Barry Mack, Terry O'Connor, Daz Fleury, and myself were the forefront rowers that took. So it was a fair.
Yeah.
We didn't win a game, but we did some good times. Uh, but it was like
And
bits
that's the
like that we
beauty
had
of the
in the.
sport, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Going back to sentimental stuff, I've done a fair few shirt presentations and what have you now. And one of the stories I tell is this has hopefully answer your questions, is that I have the shirt in my hand and I talk about it. It says this thing means everything to you. So when I've done this, I said, me giving you the shirt's nothing, it's you that's earned it. But yet the reality of it is just think about the sacrifices and all the people that have helped you get to this point. So where I'm going with it is that one of the things that absolutely pisses me off and annoys the life out of me is at the end of games, you'll take it off. So a lot of people take it off and go give it to somebody else. I'm like, that don't fit well with me. And I've got every England, Great Britain grand final shirt, cup final shirt. I've got them all because I think to myself, think of the story we've talked about there and what you've gone through from Halifax and Leeds and things like
Yeah.
that. Why would you give something away that you worked your bollocks off to get, and then just at the end of a game you go, here you go, somebody else can have it, and you get an Aussie shirt or a Kiwi shirt? That means call to me. I want that shirt, the one that I've earned. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I've got them all still
Yeah.
there. They're still here. I've got every one of them that I've ever had. Every cup final shirt. Still, they're sentimental. They don't mean anything to me, but other than the fact is that I've earned them,
Yeah.
and I'm not
It's
giving them
not.
away for under.
Yeah, sorry, mate. It also represents that nurse that told you to take a second chance. That surgeon that had a similar mentality to you. The fact
Yeah,
that your wife has been there with you through thick and thin. The kids have once they've come along. It's more than you, isn't it?
yeah. As I say, I think that's what I
Yeah,
talk about now. It's not just you that has the sacrifice. So my eldest now has got 2 girls. We've just had another baby. She's 9 months old. It's like talking to the youngest who just had a baby girl as well, and it's like you're talking to the mums and things like that, and it's like you don't realise how much time. When I talk to the wife, you don't realise how much time she's had on her own bringing 2 kids up.
Yeah.
Like end of season, if I'm in a camp or I'm on a tour or something like that, it's like remember her ringing me when I was in Australia, and she said they're kicking off. I can't do this, and she was in tears. And I'm like, this is what you want me to do? I'm in Australia. I can't do anything. But yet, then you think about it now and reflect on it. You're like, the volume of time that she's had to bring kids up on her own. That's what that shirt represents as well. It represents all them sacrifices that your parents have made, your family have made, the coaches and everything like that. I'm at a funeral tomorrow for a lad who used to coach me at Half Acres. So I'm at a funeral tomorrow. So they're the times now where we used to go to a lot of weddings. Now it's christenings and funerals.
Yeah. No, do you know what, mate? So that is my job, mate. I am a grave digger. It humbles you, and so I'm in an age where, like you said, you're doing them more. I'm starting to recognise surnames, age groups, and it like
Have you got a box at
when you
home with
see.
Have you got a box at home with a funeral plan in it as well?
No, man, I'm getting cremated and all that. I pick me songs and stuff.
Oh, all right. You haven't
Yeah,
got that
yeah.
far yet.
I don't know. It just makes it real. Do you know what I mean, Paul? So I understand what you're saying. Like I've buried
Yeah,
mates and stuff, and
yeah,
family members and that, and it does make you reflect, mate. It's a fact, isn't it? It brings things home a little bit more.
yeah. We lost my dad in 2021. He lost him to COVID, and it's like you never realise. And the thing is with this is you think that it's like I said to my kids now. I says like my youngest is bigger than me. He's massive. He trains. He's good size to him and all that type of stuff. He's healthy and he's fit. And we have the joke. Well, I've had the joke with both of them to be fair. And it's like, you know, when you're messing about and play fighting and all that. I'm 53-year-old now, and they're bigger than me. And it's like, this is pick your timing. And this is what do you mean? I says because you're only ever going to get one shot at the title. And make sure you're ready for it. But that's the thing is when you talk about your parents and what have you, it's and that humility type thing. It's we lost my dad in 21 to COVID, and it
Yeah,
absolutely broke me. Absolutely
yeah,
broke me. And I thought, as a 50-year-old man or nearly 50-year-old man, that it's something in my life I'd be able to handle. But yet, you build your parents up to be superhuman, don't you? That's what you do.
yeah. They're untouchable, aren't they? Yeah.
You always think like, exactly that's the thing. And then when all of a sudden the frailties come out, it's like shit. And it gives you a little bit of grounding as well back of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I lost my mum, mate, in 2019, it humbled me. I never like seen or felt it coming. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it
it's
does it to
different to
you, doesn't
everybody,
it?
isn't it? Everybody can
Yeah,
handle things differently. I can remember just sitting at home in the garden in his old house, and my wife would look at me, and I just burst out crying. And it's
yeah,
like that's not something I'd do in front of my wife. But yeah, it's just losing one of your parents, and unfortunately, it's a fact of life, and it's what is going to happen. But you're never prepared for it.
Oh no, mate, you can't be taught it, can you? I say like 9.5 times out of 10, mate, can speak about when she used to come all the games and my presentation evening, and then just that half a time, someone that you've not seen for years go, "How's your mum?" And
I've just
then
been to my mum's.
you'd act
Yeah,
all right and walk off upset, don't you?
I've just been to my mum's today before I've come on to do this with you, and she's talking about things. Obviously, she knows I'm going to Pop Wilbur's funeral in the morning tomorrow afternoon, and she was talking about it and how she remembers his wife and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, you're 82-year-old, you're 83 tomorrow. Or she's 84. I better get that right. She's 83 or 84. I said she's 82 to get on the good side, Warner. And she's talking about things. I'm thinking, I have got absolutely no recollection of the things you're talking about. But they're the things that mean everything to her. They're part of my journey to where we are. And they're the bits that she remembers. I remember my bits of them type of things, but she has other memories of it as well. It's
Yeah,
crazy, them type of thing.
no, it is, mate, it is. So
Gone pretty
we
deep
touched
here,
on
haven't
Brad.
we? Gone pretty deep now,
I
haven't we?
know, sorry, mate. Yeah, I didn't send you that, did I? So we touched on Bradford, which is, I'll be honest, I grew up following Bradford because of a friend of mine, mate. So I was like the Matt Elliott era. That's when I
Yeah.
first got.
Matty
So
signed
you
me.
would have been there, wouldn't you, mate?
Matty signed me in the beginning of 2097.
Yeah.
That was
So
Matty's first full year. Matty
how
came the year before, didn't he, as Brian Smith's assistant, and then took over the year
yeah.
after.
Could you have foreseen what was about to happen when you got there?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's it's fairly crazy to be fair. How that came around was remember St John Ellis played at
Who's that?
Castleford on the wing. St Ellis?
No.
Well, I played at. He was coach at Doncaster as well. He died on training. He had a heart attack, I think it was, at training. He died there. He was coaching, but he was on the winger. He was playing at Halifax with me at the time. The way that Bradford were coming around is, he said to me, he says, "So I've been talking to Matty Elliott. So I think St John played with Matty Elliott or knew Matty Elliott in some way. I don't know." And all these rumours were coming around about Bradford and whatever. He said, "Do you want me to ring Matty and see what's going on?" I was like, "Nah, me daft. What want me for?" He says, "No," he says, "I'll ring." Anyway, a couple of weeks before that, St John rang the house phone pretending to be League Express or something like that. And he had me for 20 minutes ringing. It's such and such from League Express asking me questions. And then at the end of it, he just went, "Nah, you dickhead, I'll put the phone down on me." I'm like, so he asked me about Matty and things like that. I said, "No, I'll ring him." Because I think he knew what was coming at Halifax and whatever. And he was towards the end of his career, and my career was probably coming up to that midpoint. I was mid-20s, not really going anywhere. He says, "I'll ring him." Anyway, next thing I know, the phone's ringing. And he must have given Matty Elliott my number, but he scarred me from the call a couple of weeks before. So the Aussie accent come on the phone. Hey, Paul, Matty Elliott here, Bradford Bulls." Yeah. Singe, I know it's you. Stop fucking about. So he's gone, no, it's Matty Elliott. I went, "Singe, I know it's you. Stop pissing about." Anyway, this went on for about 5 minutes, and he just went. He says, "Look," he says, "remember the old 1471?" He says, "Do 1471." He says, "And ring me back." But yeah, whatever. Anyway, it got better than me. I did 1471. It went straight to voicemail. It went, "Hi, Matty Elliott here." Balls. I was like, "Shit, what have you done?" So I rang him back and I'm like, "Mate, I'm sorry." I said, and I explained to him and he just started laughing. So then I signed for Bradford probably the day after. Bradford agreed a fee with Halifax. Steve Sims got sacked the weekend. I signed for Bradford on the Monday.
Wow. So it's like everything's been really quick whenever you've gone anywhere, really, and it's so far,
Yeah.
because obviously we'll touch on the next move. But how did you find it there, mate? And did success become taken for granted a little bit, Paul?
I don't think it ever got taken for granted, but I think with the group that we had that built up into where it was in 2003, 2004, and all that type of stuff, I just think it was an expectation, and I think that's a good sign for a big club, of a good team. They're good signs. Look at Wigan now. There's an expectation that they're going to win, and I think no matter who pulls that shirt on, there's that expectation that's going to happen through good juniors and good systems that they have in place. Same for Saints, same for Leeds, all these really, really good clubs. But I think at that time there, I don't think everyone was taken for granted. I just think it was an expectation. The next man up type stuff. Whoever came in, you look at some of the young players that came through. Leon Price playing a 17-year-old. Stu Field, and me and Stewie, we had our battles in training. But yeah, there was always that. I think what gave it the grounding was Jimmy Lowes and Brian McDermott. They just held the place together. They had a presence as well. People talk to me about what's your favourite, who's your best players, and pick a 1 to 13 of your best players. And I always tell them straight away the first name on the team sheet's Brian McDermott for me. Yeah. He's just, I know he's been so successful as a coach and whatever now. And yeah, I just think that my analogy of that one would be is that he was used to have 20 shit carries, so I could have 10 good ones. So he'll be back on play 2 carrying and things like that. And I'm trudging back and walking back, and I just get the good one when I'm fresh. But he'd be carrying on play 2 and play 4 that I could get whatever was in between. So it was, them type of people as well, Brian. I love playing with Brian. He's just so fit, so direct. So there's a personality as well. He was really, really good.
Yeah, to be honest, mate, you hear stories, don't you? Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. You hear stories about him, and I asked Bernard last week about him, and Bernard's like, he is different, but he's my type of different.
Yeah, he is different.
Yeah. You know what you're getting.
There's times when we coached against each other when I was at Huddersfield and he was at Leeds. I can remember talking to Kieran Purtle once. I'll tell you a bit. He was like, "What's your relationship with Brian Mack?" I just went, "I don't know. We've played together for all them years, and it's like sometimes you play against them, and I think we had a really even battle at times. I think we had some really good stuff going on. Then battles between Huddersfield and Leeds back then. But there was one game we played at Huddersfield, and coming, it was like all over me. And I'm thinking, how the mate away and all this. And I'm thinking, who's this? He's just different. He was very, very different. And it's
Yeah.
through his psyche and all that stuff, and his marine background and whatever. I love playing with him. I think he's a champion player. And I remember when he left, and I went to see him, and he was going to Huddersfield with Tom Smith, and I was like, how good's this for him?
Yeah.
So, do you know when you were signing the caliber of player you were signing? Could you ever imagined how big you were getting? Because the player just got better and better. Like you brought, I think you two complemented each other, but then all of a sudden, Joe Vangana
Yeah,
and
he
you's
just
all
left as
fitted
well,
in
Johnny.
though as
Was it?
well.
I
Yeah,
messaged Joe. I was trying to get to see him, and it never happened. But
it
yeah,
just worked, didn't it, Paul? Like it just worked.
yeah, I think there was a natural rotation there, wasn't there? Like a like for like type thing. But then, like Brian McDermott left, Jimmy Lowe's left, and then you bring in Robbie Paul went into 9, which was a different one. You bring Paul Deakin through, like these young players. Leon Price, as we said, he just ignited the scene, didn't he? From was it '98 he made his debut? So just them type of players. Rob Parker, there's a fair few others as well that come up. Apologies if I forgot them, but it's like you think about that game then, and it's like a precursor for the game now with big, powerful wingers. How good do you think it is as a front row when you've got Leslie Wynacolo and Tweeter by corner bringing the ball back? And if it isn't them, it's either a Mick Withers or Leon Price or a Scott Naylor or a Shantaine Harper. It's just it was just crazy some of the ability that they had. When then you put the cherries on there with Robbie and Henry and Paul Deakin, it's just like I think they signed Justin Harris in my last year, and it was like wow.
Yeah.
Think about that, and there's a lot of unsung people in there as well. Like Mike Closhaw,
Yeah.
Graham Mackay. I love Graham Mackay when they signed him for a year. It was just just different era. But yet the expectation was, like I said, I don't think it was ever spoke about that we was going to win. There was only once that we've ever talked about, and it was about I can't remember if it was the back of 2000 or 2002 when Carl Jennings, the strength and conditioning, followed Matty to Australia. He just talked about me we, which was the Muhammad Ali phrase. Talked about me we. There was a big sign up in the dressing changing rooms and the gym and things like that, and everything was about us. Me we. It wasn't about the individual, it was all about us. And it was just that expectation that if we did our things right, then everything else should fall into place.
Like an amateur level, mate, when you win something, it's hard to get to that level again. But imagine at your level to keep going back to that place to hit them heights.
I think the
It's
other
not
driver,
easy, is it?
I think the driver as well, this is my own personal opinion, was the biggest highlight for me was in 2000 when we won the Challenge Cup. Because I can remember Challenge Cup final day used to be like the FA Cup final. You'd be sat on the morning waiting for the telly to come on to the cup final, watching the buses and all that type of stuff. And it was like, his game on you, you'd be out playing or whatever it would be, or if it wasn't on, you'd be out and like, his game on you, his game on you, his game on you. At the start, his buses on and all that type of stuff. And it was like the Challenge Cup when we won it in 2000. That was like the big for me because that was my first. We won Challenge Super League in '97. I did my cruise shit in '98, so I missed that whole season. Was out 11 and a half months. Come back in '99. We made the grand final. Got beat by Saints. And then 2000, we went back. Did we win it in 2000? No, we got beat by Saints again, didn't we? I think it was. 2001 we beat Wigan, but yeah, it was never a consistent. You look at what Wigan have done over the last few years. They've won it. Saints have done the same thing. It was like a win and a loss and a loss and a win and a loss like that. So it was always that driver to be better the next year. Because if you've won it, then you obviously want to be better. But then obviously if you've lost it the year before, then you obviously want to be better again.
So do you know them big games, mate? I know, do you know when you're playing and you're coaching and that you've got to say what people want to hear, haven't you? You know, on media days and things. Like how did you handle them grand final weeks or Challenge Cup final weeks from when you
If I'm being
first went
honest,
to how you got older?
yeah, I think at the beginning I was shit myself.
Yeah.
I can remember You talk now, and it's like you see change rooms now where there's music on and all this type of stuff, and people prepare differently. But yet, what they're not doing is sitting there thinking about the game and reliving it 20 times before you've actually picked the ball up. I can remember being in the cup final in 2000 at Murrayfield. We flew up, and we was on the plane going up to play Leeds. There'd been a massive flood the day before, so the stadium was underwater. So we've flown up, not knowing whether the game was going to be on or not, because it was the river local or whatever it was. There was a tide mark in the change rooms about waist height, just above waist height. It was ridiculous. But how they got it ready, it was heavy pitch, but to be expected. That was a Nathan McAvoy chip over and scoring the corner one. But I can remember sitting there, getting stripped straight away, and looking. There's probably still an hour away from kick-off, if not more. And I'm thinking, right, doing my job, you're walking around, you're trying to do things and all this type of stuff, and it's just the amount of energy that you burn by just reliving the game and painting scenarios in your head, and this happened, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and all this, and it's like comparing that to the back end, where the back end I just walk in, get my boots on, and go out and play. It's just that experience and that familiarity to them big stages, and understanding that reality of it is you're building it up to be something in your mind it's not, and you don't need to do anything different that you've done for the last 20 odd weeks a week before this point. That just comes with experience, and hopefully they're the things now that we can pass on. And we've just had it recently with the Academy Origin, where one team was really relaxed and one team was really, really nervous, and they got pumped. The other team just relaxed and went and played.
Right. While you've touched on that, is that going to carry on? Because I like that concept. I'd like to see that like from the top tier as well, and maybe sacrifice like a Luke fixture or two. Do you know what I mean? But I know welfare and stuff, Paul. I'm not naive enough to think they can play every week. Do you know what I mean? But
academy level, 100%, it will stay, because I run that program. That's my job. It will stay. We'll have at least 2 fixtures a year. We need to get. We are limited in how much we can do because of finance, that's the game. I'm not complaining about that, but yeah, we do need to bring more revenue in to try and generate more England type programs within that junior systems, especially 18 and above. And it's but yet from an academy point of view, it's definitely going to be staying. We'll have at least 2 fixtures a year, and during my time, we'll have that, and that'll be the staple, along with some other stuff that we do around. We run some pace festivals as well, which we've got to run next week, which is like a player and coach education. So we do a lot of physical profiling on these players, and we'll play small-sided games based around our playing philosophies of how we play and how we coach and things. But yeah, the origin's there to stay. We want our kids to play differently to what, and it's educating the coaches, because as a game we need to do more for educating players. Because as a game we need to do more for coaches. Massively need to do more. Yeah. So,
and will that potentially? Sorry, I might put you on the spot, and if I do, just tell me to do one a little bit. But will that potentially be like international selection game? I know it's got a great meaning on it in its own right, the Origin.
Academy level.
Yeah, and then will that be like academy level? Sorry,
that's the dream. I'd love to play. I think the dream would be, because we're very. If you think about international opposition, we are very, very limited in Northern Hemisphere. We've got France, haven't we? If we're being honest, we've got France. Scotland, Ireland, and Wales are very much in their formative periods. They're more, without being disrespectful, more the community alliance type of standard. And that might come back and bite me, that phrase. But I think
we hope it does, though, Paul, by the way, don't we? Because it needs to be competitive. 100%.
But my vision would be is that we would have the 2 Origin games, play Yorkshire, Lancashire in a period of time, and then it's like a best v best type scenario, which the standards are really, really high, and then hopefully that's a selection process then for any sort of England program moving forward at under 18 level.
Yeah, and then the ambition to play Knights, and then
100%. Yeah, so I think for me the Knights needs to be like a bit of a hybrid team. So without putting an age band on it, because if you go back in the way and go GB under 21s, what you're doing straight away is you're saying you can only pick people under 21. So by that point of view, I said earlier that we're a late maturation and specialisation sport. By specialisation, I mean we don't learn to play the game until we've played the game, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah,
we can do all the education we want at a young level, but until they've had that experience of playing the game, that's when they'd learn how to play the game, and they figure their own way of doing it. And
yeah.
we've got millions of coaches, and I'm more guilty than anybody in regards to overcoaching and things at times. But yet they learn their way rather than being told this is how you should do that and this is how you should do that.
Doers rather than 30 years, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it, mate. That's it. But yeah, that'd be ideal. But yeah, at the moment, because of the budget restraints that we have, we can either do one England game, or we can do 2 Origin games. I'm trying to work with my
no
peers.
brainer, really.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to work with my peers to try and get a little bit of funding to be able to do that, which they're keen to do. They're just got to find the money. And then
yeah,
the nights should be an extension of that program. So you can go. So you talk about Sean at the minute. If we have a nights program, Sean might want to have a look at a couple of players who might be on the fringe of his squad. But yeah, then that allows us then to continue working. So you look at Super League at the minute, you look at it and say like that. George Whitby would be a nights player moving forward. Jack Fireman would be a nights who have only just come out of that England academy type process as well.
Flanagan, maybe that type of character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
George was in Origin in 2022.
so
If
it
I remember
shows it
right.
works, mate.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot more like that. There's a
No, I know. It's just nice exposure, Paul, isn't it? And then
yeah
they know whether they're at that level or not, whether they want
yeah
to. We spoke about sacrifice before, whether they want to kick on, sacrifice a few things.
yeah. I can't challenge any of the kids that we've had in our programs. They've been really really good. We've asked a lot
Yeah,
of them. We do a lot for coaching as well amongst that. So we do a lot of we select coaches from the scholarship from academy program. Leroy Cudjoe was a assistant coach with Yorkshire this year, as was Luke Gale was a player mentor. Gary Wheeler was a Lancashire player mentor. Yeah, so we've got Shane Eccles at Wigan, he was head coach. So we're doing it. We've got multiple things. We've got performance staffing from clubs, just understanding about short-term rep rugby. So we could quite easily run this over train for months, if that makes sense, every other week and things like that, and train. But it has to be a reflection of what a senior environment looks like in regards to Sean might only get 2 or 3 sessions to prepare for a test match. That's what our programs need to look like to expose them to that type of intensities, that type of detail that they're going to get.
move
And that type,
transitions, innit?
yeah, and it has to reflect that environment. It's not going to be fully like it because the senior England programs are senior England programs. But yeah, we have to have an element of them type of things in there, what we do. And same when it goes to the nights as well, which I love the nights program. Like I say, it's just the finance that's struggling with that a minute. And if I'm being honest as well, it's opposition. That's the key. The best thing we did with that is you're with Nazian, aren't you? So it's Danny Walker. Danny Walker, who started his career at Widnes. He played England Academy. At 19-year-old, I selected him to go to Papua New Guinea in 2018. I think he played 10 minutes off the bench in the second game. But yet the year after he came back into the Knights and was a starting hooker. The year after that he came into the Knights, he was starting hooker and captain. The year after that he's in the senior England squad. And then he's kicked on from there. Now he's playing every week for Warrington when he's fit. So I think that's a real. I use that analogy because it's my era. There'd be plenty more before that as well. But yeah, it's that's the type of pathway that we should be producing and giving players that opportunity. Because I remember talking to Andy last couple of years, 12, 18 months ago when the mid-season international at France played France at Warrington. I think 18 out of the 19 players had come through the night system, and the one that had come through that last couple of years or 12, 18 months, last he said to me, he says, mate, he said Paul, because I call him Andy and he calls me Paul, which when he calls me Paul, I don't know where to look. But the biggest compliment I got was, he says, they know how to be England players. And I was like, that's my job done. I'm happy with that. Well, not job done. That shows that our systems are doing the job.
Yeah. No, and I'll be honest, I think the Knights concept is great, but I agree with you. Like, it's a couple of things. I personally, I think France do need developing, but I think that type of Knights team would have been better playing against, like, the All Stars, like the first team did that time. I think that's a Knights game, really. But I know, mate, that's a fan's
we have a really
perspective. I
good
don't.
relationship. Yeah, we have a really
Yeah,
good relationship with Lauren. So Lauren now full time has been head coach over there. He's doing a little bit what I'm doing as well, trying to get their pathways up and running. And they're
yeah,
doing a good job, if I'm being honest. And it's like last year we played England Academy played France and we got beat. So they are producing some players. They
in
are a
that.
year older,
Yeah,
but yet that's irrelevant to me. Some of these kids are now regulars in Super League, playing against an 18, 19-year-old. Irrelevant.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't matter. But they're doing the right things. 2 years before that, England Knights played France B. That team included Mikey Lewis.
yeah,
So it's like that team had Danny Walker in it. Then we went. That was the World Cup year. Then we went and
yeah,
played Scotland. So we beat a France B team in France in Bordeaux. Then went to Scotland and beat their World Cup team. But yet, then them type of players, they're ready to go, ready for that next step of international football. They've played on them shitty stadiums. We nearly had to cancel the game in France with the England Knights that year because the field was full of duck shit. You've never seen as many ducks in your life, and they all dropped a turd on it when they were leaving. They had like a big sponging machine, like you put on see on the cricket, going across.
yeah, yeah,
It was like basically it was like a big towel picking all the shit up. And it's like they're the challenges when they don't realise that at this
yeah,
level, it's you can go to Papua. You should have seen the stadium we played in Papua New Guinea. It made Cass look like Wembley. It was ridiculous.
yeah. But again, when them blokes have called it a day, mate, and people like me am either and like am either you, that'll be what they speak about, won't they? Them memories,
Yeah,
mate.
I can. One of the things I always talk about in them type of camps is about the relationships you build, and then the relationships you'll go forward with people and things like that. So James Stevenson, who worked with us at the RFL up until beginning of this season, he's now I think it's football operations at Hull KR. And he said to me, he says, he actually mentioned it, and he said, you talked about relationships and building friendships and lifelong things and things like that. And he's gone, yeah, he says, as soon as I walked through the door here, Mikey Lewis has gone straight to him and said, hey, now then, Steve, how are you, pal? Remember when we did this and did that and all that type of stuff? And I don't think he'd ever really been in environments before. And he just said to me, he says, it hit home about what you're talking about. It's not just all about the football like we talk about, it's about the relationships that you get as well.
Yeah. And do you know at that level, mate? Do you get a good buy-in from clubs? Because the international setup might, or the academy setup with the origin might not play the same brand as the clubs play. So did he still buy in?
Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
no real issues at all within, especially at under 18s at academy level. I've been out, I've been visible with the clubs. Probably not as much as I should have done this year because we're down a fair few members of staff, but yet we've got a lot more program activity going on. But it's them relationships that you built with the heads of youth, etc., in regards to understanding our constraints as well as us understanding them and what they're trying to achieve. And they, in the main, as far as the feedback I get, is that they love what we're trying to achieve. They want more of it, let's say. And I think they're buying into us as a program because they know what we're trying to do and we've got the best interests of the players and we're trying to do it right as well. It's like
no,
brand. We have
Batsy.
no brand. We don't have a brand. We don't have a brand of rugby. We talk about shape over structure. We want them to play and express themselves. Best
Play
team
what they
talk
say.
I've ever heard. Best team talk I've ever heard was a no-brainer from Sean in the World Cup. I went into the World Cup with Sean when Paul Wellens left and I got brought in late. And we were playing Greece and it was no win. But what he said just resonated with me, Sean. Sat in a room before the game and he just talked about it. He says, look, this game is going to be, it's a no-brainer in what regards to the result. And he just talked about how he wanted them to remember. He wanted George Williams to remember playing as an 8-year-old and how much he enjoyed it. And he wanted to go play with that enjoyment. He went round the room and asked a few people, talked about a few people about when they was kids and how they enjoyed it. Go play with that energy that you had. The game will take care of itself. And I thought to myself, and it still resonates now with that one with me. And it's an easy one because of the opposition, but yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah,
It's a good one. It's like when you used to play with all that fun when you was a kid and all that type of stuff. You had no fear in you. You didn't worry about where you were getting to on the field. You didn't worry about what plays you was executing. And that's an element of what we're about as a program now is that we're not worried about finding points on the field. You should always have points on the field. Every position as a player should be an attacking option for you. Should have something ready to go, whether it's 1v1 down a 5 metre short side you should be ready to take that and back yourself to beat your opposition. And that's the type of things that you used to do back then. You didn't used to worry about numbers. You didn't used to worry about things on the field. It's all relevant. Don't get me wrong. It all has a place.
Yeah.
But yeah, from our type of program, I want players to be able to go that an opportunity that 1v1 in that short space might only ever present itself once in a World Cup final. And the players that we have in our programs may well be playing in the World Cup final in next year or the year in 2030 or whenever the ones are. But I want them to have the confidence and understanding whatever shirt they're wearing, whether it be their club shirt or their, and especially in the rep type program, that they should know that they've got the confidence to be able to take it, because it might only present itself once, and we have to have the ability and the confidence to be able to see it and take it.
Yeah, it's go and execute, mate.
Well, that could be the difference between winning and losing a World Cup final.
Agreed. The ankle tap on Cal wasn't it? What a game that was, but that's a defining moment.
And that also, as well as that, because that was that 6-0. It was one missed tackle or one tackle on try line that we didn't quite get right that ended up in them scoring a try. So the famous one's the Callum Watkins ankle tap, but then you look, I think it was on our right. I can't remember who missed it. And it's not about that individual, but we worked out on making one more tackle, and we're still in the game.
Yeah, and it's just fine margins and moments throughout, isn't there, mate? And that's what the sport comes down to.
Yeah.
So
sort of thing
is the World Cup challenge some? Sorry, mate, go on.
As I was just saying, then I saw something on social media the other day where Sam Tompkins was being interviewed, and I think it's a lot of Sean that was coming out in him, and it's on his own theories as well. Obviously, he believes in it, but he talked about being the best of the 1%ers. And
I've seen that. Yeah,
it's a no-brainer, isn't it, when you think about it? But coming from somebody so prominent like Sam, it's everything that we think. But it's like in life, isn't it? If you're not good at the small things in life, then we're all divorced and we're all on the street. But if you're working within sport and any sort of job, it's like them 1%ers mean everything. It's the accumulation of the small margins, isn't it? You get all them right, then everything else should take care of itself.
It'll follow. Yeah, definitely, mate. Is the World Cup challenge something you like, Paul, as a player, and something you like now as a coach?
2 winners' medals, so I'm happy with that one. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Brilliant. I remember playing in packed houses. I played in 2 at Huddersfield. Played against Newcastle and played against Penrith. It was like, brilliant. I think it's a good occasion. I think it's so brilliant. I think we buy into it more than what they do.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
it's still a big effort. What says to do? Go to Penrith and win. But if that was here, there'd be 25,000 somewhere, wouldn't there?
That's a fact. Yeah.
If that was at Saints or at Wigan, they're sold out. Where I think we buy, and I think that comes down to something about us where we put Australian teams, or we used to put Australian teams and the NRL up on a pedestal, and as individuals. Now their competition is it's ridiculous how big it is, and how much finance and the revenue that goes through it, and the product that they're producing is. Their bad games are as bad as our bad games. It's just they have more better games than we have. More intense games. I think that's the key. But
they still have blowouts, Paul, don't they? I've said that to many people. Like the other week, there was a 64-0.
Yeah, I think Melbourne did
West. Didn't they?
Yeah, like I said, their bad games are as bad as ours. But they just have more better games and more intense games. And obviously, we've got more teams as well. But that's our challenge, is to get that, to minimise one area and make the other one better. So, but the World Cup challenge, I think, like I said, the pedestal thing is that I can remember playing for Great Britain the first time and stood up across my debut, and I'm looking across and I'm thinking, he's no bigger than me. But yet, because it's Australia and you've watched them all your lives as kids on TV, and we just talk constantly about how good the NRL is, we're probably fearful of putting them on a pedestal. Our players are really good, and Sean keeps them really grounded on that. That's not an issue for our players. But as a society, we think anything and everything that comes out of Australia is better, and it's not always the case.
I think. I don't want to speak out of turn. Feel free to again correct me, mate. But you think most of the signings back when you were playing tended to work out, didn't they? They tend to now. You didn't hear many players going back home as quick, did you? And things like that.
No, I think as well. I think back then it was probably more lucrative for them players to come here.
Right.
especially when you we're back in the day when you looked at conversion rates. I think
Yeah.
Australia would be New Zealand, sorry, at one point was $3 to every pound. So
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah,
if you earn 50,000 a day, which would have been a little bit more than that, would have been
yeah,
150,000 in New Zealand. So what they was taking home was 3 times more valuable than what it was here.
yeah,
But that's not the case anymore. Hence the reason why salary caps and things like that, and what are they at 12 or 13 million salary cap,
yeah,
which is £6 or £7 or £8 million. We're at 2, which is probably where it. If we're having a salary cap, it's probably where it needs to be for affordability for our game. But
yeah,
it's them type of things that's. Yeah, I agree with you. That I think it's the
yeah.
quality of player as well. You either there ain't many Bevan French or Jai Fields coming across as
No,
and
no, no, no.
even to be fair to them, they're absolutely killing it, and they are up there.
Yeah,
In them two are in the probably best three in our competition, and they're killing it. But they're enjoying it here, and it's the reason why they're staying. But
yeah.
there ain't many of them coming.
No, no. Yeah. You'd have played with them, but the last person I really remember like doing things what they were doing was Jamie Lyon, and then
Yeah,
Matt Gidley come not long after him, didn't he? But I know
yeah,
the story behind Jamie. He was sort of playing bush rugby, wasn't he, and was falling out of love with
yeah.
the game and that. So I
He'd
appreciate we
fallen
probably
out,
got a bit
fallen out with
lucky.
Parramatta, hasn't he? He'd fallen out
Yeah.
with Parramatta, and
So I
yeah,
know Saints got a bit lucky with him coming over because there was no really happening for him, but he's the player I remember absolutely lighting it up.
me and him played the same 2 years at Saints. You don't mention me though, do you?
Well, that's the thing, innit? You forget how you move from dynasty to dynasty, really, Paul, without really probably knowing it, didn't you?
I say on that one. This probably shows my age. Is that I was uh, I was Phil Beavers and he was Mal Meninga. Phil Beavers ended up staying for 20 years, and nobody knew of him when Mal Meninga was here, but they both came at the same time, didn't
No, yeah, it is, and that's one of them pedestal things again, isn't it? Like,
they?
because of his heritage, really, you probably look more towards his country flag than actually who's around and that.
Yeah,
So, the Lancashire Yorkshire thing, mate, if we touch back on that, is that something you look forward to playing in, mate? And would you like to see that back at that level?
yeah. I think yeah, I think I think we have to look at making. I think we have to look at ourselves to start with. And I'm big on the international game. Don't get me wrong. I think that, but yeah, if we keep persisting, and I know we haven't got one this year, but yeah, if we continue persisting with what we've done in regards to mid-season internationals and what have you, we're going to create a window. It's going to be hard for us, but yeah, I think that we've got to find a way to reduce the fixtures to try and get something in without affecting quality. And I get the revenue side of it from clubs. I understand it fully,
Yeah,
but I think I've got an analogy. I've got a theory on this one. So I think one thing with this is you got to get the players involved in it. You got to get the players excited by it. And
yeah,
as a former player, there's one thing that I know that would excite players if you paid them well for it. So if you pay players well, then the players wanted to play in that fixture rather than what clubs was decided. I think that I think a winner takes all type thing. So if you put 10 grand a
yeah,
man or 5 grand a man and said, right, there's 170, 200 grand here up available, your winner takes all. We've written storyline straight away in regards to the game. And it's
yeah.
like I tell you what I watched the other day about the Stamford cricket when he put the 20 million on the board for the West Indies and England. Have you watched that one? He's in jail now, isn't he, for the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. But yeah,
Right.
that was all about 20 million quid, $20 million. And the winners of one game won 20 million, which was a million apiece. We're not in that category. But what I'm saying is that
The
it's
ideology of it.
the narrative is there of a winner takes all.
Yeah,
Do a one game type of series. Try and get some decent commercial sponsors and partners in there on that one, and build it up into something. Then let's start with one game and turn it. Let them get away with murder out and not feel. Let's just hope they all come through healthy, and
yeah,
let's build from there. Try and build
yeah.
from it. That's just my thoughts of a narrative. I think that
No, I
yeah,
like that, mate. I like it's like I think sports fickle because say we were working in a shop or a supermarket, mate, and a rival supermarket offered us more money for exactly the same job 2 minutes down the road.
you're gone.
Every man and the dog's going to take that extra money 2 minutes. But if a player does it in whatever sport they're in, they're greedy, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't,
I think
yeah,
that's the
I can't get my head around that, mate.
I think that's the nature of. I think that's just a supporter thing into with that loyalty and all that type of stuff. There's no such thing as loyalty anymore in sport. There's not. Let's
No.
be honest. Unless you're born and bred and you get looked after and are a superstar from a young age, it's very, very rare that there's any sort of loyalty. And you're seeing that more and more with young players because of the player market. Young players who you think are going to be generational players for you are disappearing on you because for whatever reason. And it's, yeah, I had 4 clubs in my career, and now looking down the line, and it's like, where are my loyalties? They're probably not with any of them, really, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Because I've gone past that type of stage. But if you were born, and my probably loyalties are still with Cass as a kid, because that's what I can remember as a kid, even though it hurts never to play for them. But yeah, played for Leeds, played for Halifax, Bradford, St Helens, and it's like, yeah, I enjoyed every bit of it because it gave me the lifestyle and life I've had now and the experiences I've had. But my loyalties are still probably where they were as a kid.
Yeah, yeah. And so they should be. You're born and bred Cass, aren't you? It is what it
Yeah.
is, mate. It doesn't stop you giving 100% for that jersey you've got on at the time.
No, and that's your livelihood, and that's the thing is a job. If you're getting paid to do a job, you expect to do your job, don't you?
So
And that's
you
the
do,
thing.
mate.
That's the thing with sport because you can have that accountability on top of it. But you can have more accountability in the sporting environment from a coach or an organisation on an individual in regards to performance related because there's a hell of a lot of processes and what you have to go through in the real world in regards to be able to discipline or challenge somebody in their work ethic. But in our world, can you deal with it now and then, and you can drop people. You can't do that in a normal job. They can't do that with you, can they? You know what I mean? This is a process in regards to all these other things I've got to go through. But yet, that accountability that we have, or we have in regards to the individuals and what we can have collectively, it's it's fun. But that's where that loyalty, let's say, of that fickleness of fans of we want our players to play for us, and I fully appreciate that. And I'm not calling Speckies out here, but yet reality of it is we're not all born and bred Bradfordians. We're not all from St Helens, not all from Halifax, not all from Leeds, but I'm from Cass. You know what I mean? Even though I've not lived there for 40 years, probably.
No, it's exactly that, mate. It's exactly that. So you were around a really successful, like I said, a dynasty there at Bradford. So when the time come to leave, like you mentioned, how big a Challenge Cup was. You've mentioned grand finals. We've mentioned the signings. We've mentioned how they've paid for you as well, which is it doesn't happen now, Paul, does it? It's a contract's
70
meaningless,
grand, I
really.
think the transfer fee. I think they paid
Yeah.
70K for me.
Like again, it's a lot of dough in it. Like, but you didn't have to give it back. Do you know what I mean? It's a two-way thing. So
I
when
think it came
leaving
both
come,
ways.
yeah, that's it, innit, mate? You've more than justified the trust in paying that. You repaid that with performance. You hid your goal kicking so Deeks could have all the glory, didn't you, mate? So it's like when did the end of Bradford come?
Can you delete that bit out for me?
You can. So when leaving Bradford, mate, was that tough?
Yeah. You talked about World Cup challenges early in the year, and 2003, I'd come off back of playing for Great Britain against Australia in a Test series. I can remember I did in the last game was at Hull at the KC or whatever it was called then stadium, and I did my plantar fascia in my foot, and I had to come off the field and was really, really struggling with it. Struggled in off season, all that stuff, and I had really, really struggled. I was early 30s, probably 32 by then. I'd had multiple knee surgeries. I'd had a reconstruction. I'd got a plate in my arm that had radial nerve damage. So every time I hit somebody with my arm, which I don't condone you should ever do, I was pins and needles all the time, and I was a wreck if I'm being honest. I could sense something in pre-season, and I went and spoke to Mobby about things. We had a couple of trial games, and I hardly played any time, and I'm thinking, right, what's going on? So I went and spoke to the coach, and he was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Everything's all right." I played another game, played minimal time, and like, "Don't worry about it. Everything's all right." And I'm like, "I'm not sure what's happening here." And I could feel, it's fresh as the days long this because it hurt to leave because it was the best thing, it was the right thing now in the hindsight for me to go. But yeah, I only know that now as a coach and reflecting on what have you. And I went in again and said about things, and we had the World Cup Challenge, and he says, "You starting?" I went, "What? No, where's that come from? I didn't think I'd be playing, if I'm being honest." So I started, and I can remember my first carry of the game. As a front rower, I'd like to think I was pretty smart, because I'm looking across the Penrith line and you're looking at all the big islanders and things like that, and I see Craig Gower stood there in front of me. So I thought, right, I'm going, and I got over top of him, got to 30 or 40 metres on the kick return, on the kickoff, at the start of the game. I was like, right, we're away. Then played a few more games, and whatever you started, come off the bench, everything was rolling, everything was like normal. But then I can remember playing at Widnes and played the game, come back the next day, was going in for recovery and whatever, and my knee was like crunchy. So I went and saw the surgeon. I had to have a microfracture surgery, which put me out for 12 weeks. And in that period, before that, Nobby, basically, we'd spoken, and he says, that's about coming off contract. And they'd come to me, and they said, "Oh, 2 years here on no more money." So I says, "That's fine," because that takes me to my testimonial, because I've been there 8 years. So I was like, right, that's brilliant, let's get it done. And then time would go on. I did my knee, like I said, so I'd go in and say, "What's happening with that?" And he'd be right, "No, don't worry about it, it's on with it." Another month go by, right, where are we? "Oh, don't worry about it, it's with the board, don't worry, it's all fine." And then I got, what was it? I don't remember rightly now. I might have portrayed it being a bit earlier in the season. It might have been a bit more middle of the season onwards. But like, so remember Richie Moore played at Wakefield and things like that, Bradford. He'd started doing really, really well. So I think what they started doing is having a bit of doubt in regards to whether to re-sign me at 30-odd-year-old with all these issues and things like that, which I get. I just wanted to be honest. And there was a time then where I was actually considering retirement. I'd probably had enough. I was down. Like I said, I'd got the nerve damage in my arm, my things. And when a player turned around to me and said, "Well, you're demanding 2 years, and does all this wrong with you?" I thought, well, I'm not demanding 2 years. I've been offered it. So it was like there was trying to be a bit of a theme coming here. So I went in and asked. He went, "Don't worry about it, but it's with the board. So they're just considering it all and all this type of stuff." And I'm thinking, what? But then I was considering other things. But yet then the coach come to me at the time and said, "I've heard you're going to St Helens." And I was like, "Nah, first I've heard about it," and I'm pretty direct, and I'd say if I had. And I says, like, "No," I says, "I'm being honest with you. If nothing comes, that's me done. I don't want to start dropping down the leagues and doing it, not giving it what I want to give it." And he was like, "Right, yeah, just leave it with me, the usual stuff." Anyway, in that period, then I did get the call for St Helens, and then that come around. I remember talking to Eamon, had a conversation with Ian Millward, and it just went from there. I went in, and Nobby said something to me again, and I said, "Look," I said, "I'm going to be honest with you now. When you asked me last time, I hadn't spoke to him. This time I have. I'm going to go. If you're not coming up with anything, I'm going." And he was like, "Right, yeah, no worries. I've told the board you might come back and bite us. It'll be in the short term, not the long term, obviously, because of my age and whatever." And that was that. That's as far as it was. I can remember we finished the season that year. I got brought back. I'd not played any games for 12, 14 weeks, whatever it was. And it was grand final week, and it was just a week when I started running. And Nobby asked me, I was asked if am I fit to go? And I was like, "If you need me, yeah, fine, not a problem." Anyway, I played. And I thought it was embarrassing. I was hurt because I came on with about 10 minutes to go in the first half and got brought straight back off. And I was like, "What's going on here?" So obviously I tried to do something, not played in all that period of time, which is, I've got responsibility to play on that as well. But I felt embarrassed. We lost the game, obviously that hurt. I felt like I'd had the piss taken out of me by just being brought back and then just giving me a little spurt here and there. Probably more, it's probably more humane not to play me, if that makes sense. Give Richie Moore got dropped.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's probably the right thing to do for Richie Moore to play in a grand final and get that experience. I'm going. If you think about it that way. But yeah, I got picked, and it all depends on which viewpoint you've got. But yeah, I felt like, obviously we lost a game, which hurt. And I got like a little cameo in the first half, and I'm sat there thinking, I feel like I've had the piss taken out of my head a little bit. So I can remember the Mad Monday on that Sunday after. I get to a point when you're out for a drink, I just get up and go. If that's me, I've had enough. I'm just going. Don't see or anything like that. But I knew I wasn't coming back after that one. So I remember I just went to Robbie and said, mate, I'm off. And I remember I'm starting to well up and what have you. And Robbie was really good with me. He might not remember it, but he was really good with me. So I got in the taxi and went home. But it's, it was hurt to leave. But yeah, then it was interesting then going to St Helens where basically as soon as you walked in the door and you see cars, you see Scully and you see Long, you think, looking at all these places, there's something about this place.
Yeah. I heard Gilly had something to do with your move, mate, if I'm honest.
What it may have done. I'll tell you what I've been told is that Scully was behind it as well. So Scully,
Right.
I think they obviously you look at what they had in there. They had James Roby and James Graham as kids in that system and what have you. And they needed somebody, should I say, to fill a gap. And I was available, let's say. There was somebody who was a player manager I knew or I played with at the time, and he brokered it, let's say. But I'd heard that Scully says that he'd spoke to Basil, and the rumours were that Basil wasn't keen, and Eamon was, and Scully was, and it may well have been Gilly as well. Gilly's never said anything to me about that. Scully has, so I'll give him the credit. But if Gilly's in there, then that's fair enough.
Isn't it nice though that like, well, not nice probably ain't the right word. Like I know how that's how, but in it, that straight away you've got the confidence and the belief of everybody. I know you're an established player in that, Paul, but it's a new changing room to you, isn't it? There's still
Yeah,
a little bit of
I felt
self-proving
like
need doing.
my first training day at St. It was hilarious. Ian Millward rang me and he said before the grand final, and he was like, "Oh, you're going to be fresh as a daisy, all that type of stuff. You can come in first day because you're not going to play, are you?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm playing." And he was like, "Seriously?" He used to call me Ando all the time. Australians call you Ando and things like that. He went, "You're playing?" And I could hear him. He went, "Ando's playing tomorrow." He's talking to somebody in the office, I think, because they thought I'd be fresh as a daisy then going into pre-season, which I was. I only played a couple of minutes. And it was like walking in there on day one. It was like first day of primary school again. It was like I felt like some energy and felt some nervousness about training that I'd not felt for a long time. I can always remember where Ian Millwall said to me, he says, "Oh, we've got sprint training at 8 and we're back at the stadium for 9 and then we've got this and this after." He says, "I'll tell you what, I'll just see you at 9 at the stadium." I went, "Right, no worries." Me being me, I'm there at 8 o'clock, drove across, and I'm like, gets there. Ian Millward walks in about 9:05 and goes, "Mate, where the fuck you been? We track at 8 o'clock." I was like, "Yep, put me in my place straight away, mate. You've done well there. I've got you. That's a good trick. I'm going to learn that one. I've learned
Yeah.
that one." So I was like straight away on my toes. So it was like, yeah.
Did you train at Ruskin Park then, Paul?
We trained at the stadium that first year for that first
Did
bit.
you?
It was all out the stadium. Remember the little pitch out the front?
Yeah.
There, and then it was basically all over the place. It was more the stadium, bit of Ruskin, more the back end of that first year. We went to Ruskin as well, probably full time, and especially that second year. Yeah, before.
Right. And
There was a gym
again,
at the
mate, was
stadium as well next to the training room.
all right. Okay. Yeah. So did you know you'd fit in so well?
Probably not, no, but yeah, played with so many of like Wello and people like that that'd been there through rep football, Scully, Kez, Longy. There was so many people there. Obviously, Gilly was there because he'd done the year before. Gilly, I think, was because my first 2 weeks of pre-season, I can remember crawling out the car after getting home because I'd not done a pre-season since because I've been with rep football and whatever. I'd rocked up for a couple of weeks and started playing, and it was like I can remember Apollo Perolino was really good with me. I played against him and he said to me, "Mrs. Mate, this is what we've got planned today. Are you good with that or not?" And all this type of stuff. And I was like, "I'm not going to say no. I'm going to get through it, but how long it takes me is another matter." Obviously, I'm a big. I can remember going. The pre-season was ridiculous. When I first went there, I'd gone from playing probably average of 30, 40 minutes a game or something like that. And my first game, I played 70 straight. And I was like thinking, "Oh, where's this come from?" But then never realised I was probably the lightest I've ever been because of the training we'd had and the running we'd had and the way Apollo managed me as well. I've got to be honest, was unbelievable. He was really good for me at that point. He knew I was an old athlete. Well, athlete's a stretch of the imagination, but an old player, let's say.
No, because your game definitely come across like it elevated. I don't know if you felt that as well.
Yeah, I think there was a
Yeah.
demand to play. there was a man to me, and I think this is a little bit my psyche now as a coach, where I'm with my pathway things, and it's like I want people to play and express themselves. I can remember once we was at Ruskin with Ian, and there was a ball on the floor, and I dived on it, and there was nobody near me, and he turned the ball over. He said, "Nah, get rid of it. You give it them." I went, "Why?" So I'd always challenge things. But honest, there's periods when I was probably a bit of a prick, and it was like, "Nah." I went, "Why?" He's gone, "Well, there's nobody around you. You could have passed that ball to somebody else. We could have been playing." I've gone, "All right, yeah, get you. Yeah, fair enough." And that was the Saints' way of playing under Ian. And it encouraged you to bring your tip in and your passing and playing and all that type of stuff. And it just suited me down to the ground, because if I'm being honest as well, it gave me another dimension to my game because my legs were going as well as I was getting older. And I think that the other players around me appreciated what I could do as well, so they'd probably use me more. I can remember loads of times where I'd get bollocked if I didn't tip it into a short hole or tip it into well hole or something like that. They're saying, play. We need to be playing here. And I'm like, all right, yeah, no worries. But then when you did play, and they'd always be there. They'd always be there, and they'd always run that hard. They'd come out the other side. Gilly was the best line running back rows you've ever seen. They'd be in them sort of spaces, which allowed me then to be able to play and tip, and it because of that uncertainty of playing, it allowed me to run a bit more as well.
No, it definitely come across like that, mate. Was there any point in your career, mate, where you noticed the coaching tendencies creeping in on a training day with young uns, or maybe with someone that's mid-20s that hasn't been exposed to your view of things yet?
I'm not sure what you mean. I don't get that.
So do you know, like the little intricacies in that, mate? So do you know, like, did you notice coaching tendencies creeping into your training day as a player?
Yeah, I think the first time, look, I'd been with Dougie, I've been with David Ward, Malcolm Reilly. They were really coaches who coached basically. There was no real technicalities in that. It was a move or it was a play, or there was the detail that they went into probably weren't great, but they was good at the time. But then when I went to Steve Sims, started bringing a little bit in, and then when I went to Bradford with Malcolm Reilly, I was like, whoa, what's this? With Matty Elliott's son, not Malcolm. I first thought in, I thought, wow, I'm being taught to catch and pass it. I'm mid-20s. What's going on? Well, we have to be good at it. We don't know how to catch and pass. You think you do, but you don't. That type of stuff. And all the old 6-foot passes you practice for hours, little wrist flicks and grips and defense and wrestle and all that stuff. It was like, I walked in and thought, what the hell's this? This is a whole new game. That's what I say to kids now is when you was at Warrington when they used to come out of scholarship and say to them, I says, look, this is the game that you think you knew playing community and playing scholarship is not the game you're going to be playing from here on in. The detail that you're going to be given, the expectation on you, the effort type of stuff is going to be you're going to be challenged to haul out. Whereas previously they just played on their instinct. Whereas then the higher level of the game, you need them other bits you need the other tools in your bag.
Was it easy to adjust into that new phase of your career then, mate, when your time at Saints come to an end?
No, not at all.
No.
So I announced that I was retiring probably 3/4 away through my last year, and it was time to go. I can always remember as well talking to Eamon. He always said to me, "It's only ever going to be a 1 year deal. It's only ever going to be a 1 year deal." And I was like, "No, it's not." And I started enjoying myself that much. He went, "No, it's going to be a 1 year deal." And he come to me probably halfway through my first year and went, "Do you want to go round again?" I was like, "Yeah, I told you." But then I knew that my role was starting to do this when I come
Changing.
from bigger games. Yeah, because you'd got James Graham on the bench and what have you, and people like that were coming through. And I understood fully my role because they were direct with me and they knew what was what. We had a couple of conversations at Saints about maybe starting to do one or two things with staying on and doing some other stuff with some of the young players and what have you. But with the travel and young family and all that, it probably couldn't give it the time that it needed. And then obviously they went to Huddersfield. But that transition, what you think you know as a player to what you need to know as a coach is two different things.
Yeah. No, and like the way your relationships are with players, mate, whether you want it to or not, it changes, doesn't it?
I can remember one of the first things that we did when I was at Huddersfield is sit and talk about players. I'm sat there and I'm thinking to myself, did anybody ever talk about me like this? Because ultimately, you're talking about recruitment, retention, whether he's good enough, whether he's not, what he needs to work on, all this type of stuff. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, wow, my mind got blown, and I struggled with that for a period in regards to that, because I was a player in October, and I was a coach in November, and it was like I finished in the grand final very fortunately in 2006, and by November 2006 again I was coaching, and it wasn't easy. I can remember Ben Cooper, who's the S&C at Wakefield now, he was at Huddersfield at the time, and John Sharp, and I had a warm-up drill and I took waves. Now, as a player, you've done waves that many times. You just know that you catch a ball and run to the other side. That's it. That's all you have to think about. Oh, they're going to change ball. All right, it comes this way now, not instead of that way. That's as much as it is.
Yeah.
But as a coach, it was like I got it wrong. I got the easiest drill in the world wrong, because all of a sudden, as a coach, you got to think about how many people, how many balls, how big's the square, how long am I going to do this for? What's the actual coaching elements I'm going to try and get across? I had balls going all over the place. It was just players looking at me going, "What's going on here?" It's like Ben Cooper. I can always remember that he jumped in and saved me day, or saved me bacon to an extent before it actually got worse. If you know, that first year as a coach, I got that much wrong. It was ridiculous. But I got it wrong. Is I've never coached I'd coached at community level with Normanton Heights, but that was I was having a bit of fun. But yeah, that was a whole new world. Sean Shaw was really good for me, and Kieran Purtle as well. Me and Kieran, obviously, we've got a bit of history together as well.
So when that call come, mate, to step up and be full-time head coach, I imagine for your career it's great, innit? But your friends just been let go of, sort of thing. I imagine it's a bit of a mad contrast, isn't it?
Oh, when John left, you mean? Yeah. It was different. I can remember we played Catalans, and we'd got the week off after, and there was no game. We'd got a week off, and we all, and even John, I think, knew that something was coming, and we were all in the hotel and all that. But we'd planned, the wife and the kids, we was going to Benidorm for 3 or 4 days after that. So we got back Sunday and flew out Monday, and I was like, I don't want to go because I know what's coming here. I want to be here for him and work with, trying to help him. Anyway, nothing happened, and I got a phone call out of the way off the chief exec, and I'm thinking, shit, the worst happened, and it was completely a random call about nothing to do with anything. I think now we're just sounding out where I was. So I think he knew I was away, so he didn't say anything. But then the following week, we all came back in on Monday. We got told to go one side of the stadium, and John was in the other, and he got released. And it was a difficult one because it was like the first time I'd ever been through anything like that. And I'm like, do I go with him? Do I quit? I remember having a chat with John, and he's going, "Nah," he says, "You've got your contract here. You stay. This is on me," and all that stuff. But it was hard when John left. Really hard.
So what was head coaching like? Is it something that you enjoyed, though, Paul?
Probably not at the time. Probably not. Probably. Yeah. I think we had a good time in regards to some success and consistency. We knew we weren't the best team. And to be fair, even before that, I think Nathan Brown was really, really good for me. Nathan Brown was unbelievable for me, if I'm being honest. Some of the stuff and the detail that he'd go into, we'd take hours to do a review because I'm like, mate, I have no idea what you're about. Explain that to me. And it was just like some of the things and details he'd see and say, and I'd be like, wow, this is just different gravy, this. And it was really, really good for me. But in that period, I can always remember Nathan, and he was really honest. He was an absolute champion fella, and he still is. One of the first things we had conversations we had when he got here, he turned around and said to me, he says, "Look, my job is to get us as successful as we can so I can go home." And I thought, how refreshing is that? How refreshing is that? And he's like, but in that period, I need to get you ready to take over. So then in that period, then obviously with the club and things like that, I started doing board meetings. I'm doing more present. I had an input in regards to player recruitment and retention, or an opinion, sorry, not a real go in it, but yeah. I had a lot of involvement in a lot of different things, and it was like, yeah, I think John had a part in that as well before he left, and then it just continued a little bit from there. But like I said, Nathan were really, really good for me. that exposure to different things and all that stuff was really good. That was essentially the grounding for it, ready for it.
Yeah. And I imagine as a coach, you see a lot more of the dirty side than you do as a player, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember when Nathan left and he was going to St Helens. He announced he was leaving really early in the year, and I announced I was taking over at the end of the year. And my things now is I would suggest that when you say you're going, that's when you need to go. You can't drag things out, if you know what I mean. You leave it till the end. And I think he learned that when he was at St Helens. He left after the grand final and just went. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun, let's say, but it's challenging, it's demanding, it's sleepless nights. There's a hell of a lot of things going on there. And if I'm being honest, when I took over Huddersfield, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, how I wanted to play. I was just a little bit right. Yeah, you've got an head coach's job. Next minute, you wake up and you're like, shit, I'm the figurehead of a multi-million pound business here, and everything, all the fingers are pointing at me. Thinking, all right. But yeah, like I said, I think we had a real good consistency. But tenures at clubs are only ever going to end two ways, aren't they? You either get pushed or you jump. You leave in your own accord or you get the push. That's the key.
Yeah. Eventually, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to think we had that period there we had was a couple of times we was probably 80 minutes away from the grand final.
Yeah.
I think the killer blow for us was the Ryan Hall try when they won the league leaders at Huddersfield.
I weren't going to say it, mate.
Yeah, that just absolutely. We went to Wigan the week after, and it absolutely took the life out of us. It drained us to death, and we was awful from there. And that continued into the following year, and we made a conscious decision with our squad because of our recent history with medical, really good injury rates, all that type of stuff. We made a conscious decision to go with a smaller squad, more quality, less quantity type thing. And that come back to bite us because when you make a decision like that, then obviously an injury crisis happens. And at the time, we didn't really have the juniors then to push through. Like Sam Wood got a first team debut, and maybe one or two others were kicking on now. But we just didn't have the personnel, and probably a lot of naivety from me as a coach, which you learn from.
It's like, Paul, it's a wonderful thing, mate, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Best 6 months I've ever had in my life is when I left Huddersfield because I wasn't doing anything. Huddersfield was still giving me money, which was nice. And we went to Australia and had 6 weeks out there, me missus and whatever. And it was, I call it my period of reflection because it makes you realise sometimes you can't see the wood from the trees, can you? And be able to sit back and look at the things you've done right and things you feel like you've done wrong, things you could do better and all that type of stuff. It makes things very, very clear.
Oh, good, and it's a good break on it, isn't it? So when the international stuff come about, mate, I imagine it's hard to say no to that, isn't it?
I didn't really know much about it. I came back from Australia and had a conversation with a player manager. And he said, "Why didn't you apply for that England job?" Like, what England job? So Dave Rotherham was the assistant coach at St Helens when I was a player. I had a good relationship with Dave, and Dave was working at the RFL at the time. And when I come back, I had that call. I rang Dave and I said, "What's the score? Is there a job available?" He went, "Yeah," as if like nobody's ever thought about me. And so he says, "Send your CV to this person or ring this person or whatever." I can't remember who it was, and see what goes from there. Anyway, I went through, had an interview, and as I walked into the interview, there was 2 people doing the interview with JP and Kev Sinfield. Not that I assumed straight away. Obviously, one I played with both, but one really, really well, and obviously one at rep football. And had the interview, and I can remember when I got the call off John Roberts, who was the director of performance at the time. I was at Leicester Tigers. I'd gone down there for the day, spent some time with them, and John rang me and offered me the job as being the first full-time assistant to Wayne Bennett, which was a pretty special day, to be fair.
And what's that environment like compared to club, mate? I know you touched on it before a bit about the academy stuff. Very limited, isn't it? I don't think people quite understand how limited it is.
I think the things as well was that I think Wayne were brilliant for England at the time. I think he was really, really good. He's just what we needed at that time. I think Sean's just what we need now as well. And he was really, really good with the players. Really, really good with the players. The players loved him to bits. Everything was about the players and making them happy. as a coach, it was very, very difficult because I don't think he understood our game here yet. I remember having one or two conversations with him and talking about this, that, and the other, and I'm thinking to myself, mate, that's not how it works here. That's not how it works over here. We are different. I remember having a conversation with him about the media because he's fairly frosty with the media. So the difference between NRL and here, mate, is our press probably want to help you rather than dig you out like they do over there. They'll give you any chance and they'll dig you out. Over here, they'll actually say, "Wayne, I'm not going to do that. We're going to push this forward and be a bit more positive, let's say, rather than the negative side of it." But yeah, but it was different. It was really pretty good. So that was only ever a 1 year deal that went in on that one. But then Kev came in and took over more of he had the director of rugby type rolled into.
Yeah.
So I stayed on for an additional year going into 2018. And, yeah, did like it was a something and nothing role, to be fair. It was like having a bit in that and a bit in that and a bit in that, but not really with that senior group, which I don't think I really enjoyed, to be fair, because I'd been a head coach for however long. I didn't enjoy being that assistant. I probably weren't myself in that type of environment. But then I went into another role where I worked with the younger end of things and all that type of stuff, which that's where the appetite for that started coming.
Right. And then the Knights and Warrington, was that a combined role, mate?
It was, yeah. So when the Warrington thing came around, it's something I'd never done before, and it was a challenge for me. I'd never coached at that level before. So the typical way of coaching is going in, you start in an academy and work your way up to first team. I went straight into first team. I didn't start with any academy or anything. But it was something I'd never done. I thought, right, this is something. I had a chat with Pete Ryden, who was head of youth, Carl Fitzpatrick, Steve Price. I remember talking to Pricey, and he was talking about why I won't go for a more senior job and things like that. And just talked about how long the chair he was sitting in at the time. They were winning at the time, and said to him, I said, "You can't spin that chair because everybody's bats on back, you're getting it spinning itself." And you know from your time at St George's, when you do lose a few, you're having to kick it around yourself because nobody wants to know you. It can be the happiest and loneliest chair in the world, that one. You sat on, and I said, "I'm not sure if I want that anymore. So I want to challenge myself and do this and try and help you be better." And we were like, got a knife house on fire from there, and I think we had a pretty decent 3 years there, bringing some young players through.
So nice and direct is the way you like things, Paul, as a player, as a coach.
I probably didn't realise it as a player. Probably not as a player. We all like to be told good stuff, don't we? But I think that period of leaving Bradford, going to Saints, probably made me realise that the fluffy stuff's irrelevant. You just got to be honest. And the fluffy stuff has a place. If somebody's doing well, they need to know it. But yeah, also as well, there needs to be. When we first went to Warrington, the kids there at the time, it completely changed now. And that's not just down to me, that's down to the club as a whole. But there was a massive sense of entitlement amongst the young players. So first thing I got was Pete Moran brought me my kit bag, and I'd never seen as much kit. It was ridiculous. And I said, "How much are the kids getting?" And he said the same. So we started going through all the bags and taking stuff out. And it was like, the first kid to complain about not having enough kit will be the first kid to leave. And that was a sense of entitlement where they thought it's Warrington, we should be getting all this kit. And they didn't understand about working hard. So we introduced them to a couple of 6 a.m.s in the morning and wake-up calls and some really decent contact sessions, some really tough sessions. And then we'd work on the other stuff around it. And then we broke them to build them type of stuff. And that just became, there was a hard-working group. And you had them all, Roy's and people, Josh Fulis's and all that type of stuff. They've all, Connor Wrenches, they all come through that system. And I think, I'm not saying it's because they came through because of us, but yeah, the work ethic they went into first grade with is what they've kicked on with. It was probably always in them because they were good kids, but yeah, they understood the value of what they had as well off the back of that. They earned a lot of stuff.
I remember when Josh Fulis made his debut at Warrington. It was like, I didn't go to the game. I didn't want to sit there like a grinning Cheshire cat. I came home and went to the pub and watched it on the TV and sat there, and as if one of my own kids were making the debut. It was just such a proud moment. You felt like a proud dad sat there. It was, it was.
You did, mate. Especially you said before, the ripple effect of people's efforts and sacrifices, didn't you?
Yeah, and it wasn't just all about us. Obviously, Josh is a very, very good player, But yeah, just even knowing that he'd had a part in his development was just a pleasing thing, and sitting there and watching him and seeing some of the others go on from there was really, really pleasing.
Yeah, and it was, mate. So, got some daft questions for you, mate. We're at that time of the chat, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for
So,
it.
you can answer this one as a player or a coach, but did you have any pre-match superstitions?
Like I think I said earlier that I had some damage in my arm, and I always used to. Nick Fozzard used to get the stick, didn't he, for the big arm pad? But I used to wear one as well, and if I didn't wear that, then my head was a shed. I'm very fortunate that I've got a fairly dark complexion, so the brown tape that I used to put around my arm and hide my arm pad was the same colour as my skin almost, so nobody ever saw it. So I wore that. I used to like my boots really, really tight. I used to wear two pair of socks, and my boots had to be really, really tight.
Right. So this next word, mate, definition's different for everybody, but the toughest player you played with and against?
Oh, Brian McDermott to play with.
Yeah.
Played against. Oh, there's too many. Terry O'Connor, Barry Mack. Played against Stu Field and Adrian Morley. It's a tough one. I think there's, Andy Farrell, Scully. They were just monsters. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. But
probably missed a few out as well there. Sorry.
No, like
I'll tell you one thing on that is that when I left Bradford and went to St Helens, me and Joe Vigano had a pact that we wouldn't run at each other. So that was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good pat, that, mate. No, I don't know. I don't know whether because maybe I was like when I was growing up watching yours, I didn't realise how good players were. Like I was going to say before, I probably didn't appreciate how good Michael Withers was, as a kid.
Yeah.
I really didn't. But when you watch the grand final goals and that, or like YouTube, like extended highlight, he was a quality player, wasn't he? I probably looked more position specific, so I'd have looked at you boys because I played that position. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have necessarily looked at Michael, but
and there's nothing to him as well. You looked at him as if he never trained and what have you, but he was great player, great athlete. Remember the drop goal he did last minute against Leeds at Odsall when there was 20,000 in there. It was just crazy. Some of the stuff he come up with. The fingertip in the grand final as well, I think, as well, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
he was one. He was just like you said, looked a bit unassuming. But so your favourite away ground, mate? And did you like the old style ground, or do you enjoy the new ones?
I'll tell you one thing is that Headingley's a good one, but I didn't like it because it was always a fast game.
Yeah, everyone says it. Like most people say Headingley, mate. There must be something about it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think I've not really been there much since the redevelopment, but whether it's still got that charm or not, I don't know. But I'll be honest with you, and this is pretty sentimental. I used to love playing at Saints, and then when I played for them, I really loved playing the Saints. Yeah, so it's one of them. Playing at Cass, played the amount of times I played there and things like that against Cass and whatever. That was a good one because it was like my home ground as a Cass kid. So
would your mum be there when you played at Cass as well? Like, would you be able to spot people you knew and that?
It's quite funny. This me and Pete Riding, who was head of youth at Warrington, and we worked together at Huddersfield. We've known each other for years. I went to school with his wife, so we've known each other for God knows how long. And we used, before he started working in the game, he was old miner and things like that. And I can remember getting abused at one end at the Wheldon Lane end, and turned around and it were him abusing me when he were a Cass fan. Big mates, and I'm thinking, giving me some
That's
shit.
Brilliant, that, isn't it?
I used to love that. I used to laugh at him. I never took it serious. Just like laugh at it and turn around and laugh at him or whatever. It was quite funny.
Brilliant. So if there's a player from any era, mate, that you'd have liked to have played with, who would it be?
I think I'm fortunate. I think I've achieved that.
I was going to say it'd be hard not like your career, mate. You played with some right players.
Talking about beginnings, and you look at the icons of the game with like Gary Schofield, Ellery, Allenley. Like I said to you, still get goosebumps now talking about Ellery. Then you go on to players I played with modern day greats, Pauls and Leon, Gilly, Joe Vigana, Brian Mack. Where do I stop? Big Les, then Scully and Andy Farrell and people like that. I just Kieran Cunningham, Sean Long. Yeah, I think I've been very, very fortunate.
Completed it, really.
I've been very, very lucky that I was very fortunate to be in around some good teams, and I like to think that I jumped off the back of their success and got dragged along with it.
I wouldn't say so, mate. You've definitely played your part and earned the right to be there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been there, because sport is that fickle, like we said.
I get that, but yeah, and that's how there's still the rugby fan or rugby nerd in you that wants to still think that you're dragging onto somebody's coattails rather than pulling them along. And I was never
Fair enough.
But one of the things that used to drive me all the time is Robbie Paul used to annoy the life out of me because he'd call me a donkey all the time. Come on, donkey, do your job, donkey. Like 8 years I chased around that training field trying to get hold of him and never got him.
Oh, funny. If you could tell a younger you something, Paul, what would it be?
Enjoy it more. Enjoy it more. I think my last 2 years at Saints are probably the most enjoyable 2 years, purely because I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I think that the environment probably fit me personally a bit more. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the travel with Gilly and Foz and Leon. I enjoyed everything about it. It was a really good club. Not that Bradford or anywhere else weren't. I probably just felt right for me that at that point in my career, I probably mellowed a little bit, started enjoying things a little bit more.
Right club, right time for you, really, mate. Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially.
Yeah. Gonna give us, if the microphone's in your hand after you've had a few beers, mate.
Oh, karaoke. I'm like everybody else in the car. I'm the Bulls' best, and I know every word to every song when
Or
it
the
comes.
shower.
Yeah, if you ask me to sing a song now, then I won't have a clue in regards to words. But I don't know.
I'd have to be pissed, to be honest, Paul. Like, I have to be pissed.
Yeah. Oh, I have to be beyond that. I think we had like I said, me and the wife have been together a fair while now. We had a joint 18th, and I think I did Wild Thing at that one. So,
Did you?
Yeah.
We'll say it that.